Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the GDQ Hotfix. I am your host, Author Blues, and I will be your host for this event. Today we are doing another wonderful episode of our Disability Month programming. We're joined today by Jaxler playing Chibi-Robo and Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Keep in mind that though we have started our October Disability Month programming, you can still be involved. If you're interested in signing up or submitting runs to Disability Month, you can type !Disability Month in the chat, and you will get access to that submission forms. Before we get kicked off, a few other things I do want to make you aware of. The AGDQ 2020 games list is coming out tomorrow, October 6th. The moment you've all been waiting for. Get excited. AGDQ 2020 registration also opens on Monday, October 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information about how registration opens and how to register, you can check gamesdonequick.com. And with that, welcome, Jaxler. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think let's go ahead and get this run kicked off, and then we'll chat just a little bit.
All right. So we're going to be starting from a new file, so we're all set and ready to go. So if you're ready on time, then we'll just get straight into the run.
Count me in.
3, 2, 1, go. All right. Ooh, just make sure I actually have game audio. Okay. Hi, everyone. Like Oth said, I'm Jaxler, and this is Chibi-Robo. So this game originally came out on the GameCube in 2005 in Japan. But the West didn't see a release until either late 2005 or 2006, depending on where you live. So if you haven't seen this game before, it's a darn shame. But essentially what this game is we play as a 4-inch tall robot. It's a 3D adventure game where we try to make our family happy. That's kind of the general premise. So if you've played this game before, you might be asking, like, what constitutes an any percent speedrun? So our community has defined any percent as just generally reaching the end credits. And in order to reach the end credits, we have to save a character named Giga-Robo, who's in the basement of the house. Now, in order to get that done, we have to fulfill a couple of requirements. We have to find its missing leg, enter a passcode onto its foot, and recharge its battery. Now, the first two parts are really easy. We'll find the missing leg about, I want to say, an hour 40 into the run. And then the password is also free because it's the same thing every time. So we don't really have to worry about those two very much. But the thing we really have to worry about is the battery, which is going to actually cost a boatload of money to get sorted out. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. You'll notice that I'm playing on the Japanese version of the game, so all the text is in Japanese. The reason why that's important is that in this game, they're able to get the lines of dialogue across faster in Japanese characters than they are in English characters or any other characters. So over the course of the any percent run, it saves around 5 minutes or so just on text alone. In the all stickers category, which is our 100% category, it saves somewhere in the ballpark of 30 minutes. It's kind of ridiculous. So that's one really important reason. And then on top of that, we're also specifically playing on the Wii version. Now, you may not know this version exists, and that's for good reason. This Wii port that we're playing on only ever got localized in Japan and never made it over to the States. It was part of that Wii Play Control line, like with the Pikmin games and stuff like that. So the main reason why is because of a version exclusive trick that's not going to come up until we have to go grab the leg. But there's a couple of other minor things along the way that will save us time over the course of the run. So let's talk a little bit more about that battery. So the battery we need to fill up in order to actually turn on the robot, because you might be able to fix a bot, but if you can't power it, it's kind of useless, right? So unfortunately for us, because this is America, we have to pay for our own electrical bill. And that's going to run us around 10k moolah, which is the game's currency. We just call it moolah. Let me just say yes here. Okay. Didn't lose 7 seconds. Cool. So we're going to have to get a ton of money throughout the run, because on top of that 10k, we're also going to need to grab an extra 4,000 to 6,000 or so for various upgrades throughout the run. So a big part of this run, which might seem surprising for a 3D adventure game, is like resource management and almost like RPG levels of routing. Because there's just a lot of complexity going on with what like money locations save time and stuff. And that's also complicated by 2 more factors. Hopefully I haven't lost you all yet. But we've also got a couple of unique mechanics to this game, which are the battery meter and the in-game timer. So those won't come up until after this segment, which we're in a tutorial right now, which is why I've been blabbering on and on for the past 3 minutes or so. So those are disabled for right now, but the game has a day-night system that lasts for 5 minutes each cycle. So for a lot of these day-nights where we have specific tasks that we have to accomplish, we have to get everything done within that time limit. And that can be very, very challenging to do. And a lot of the route is designed around having the shortest possible timer, and I'll explain exactly why. But the other mechanic being the battery, it's our stand-in for a health bar. As we continue to move around the game and just even stand still, really, it'll continue to tick down. And each of your actions will also consume some of your battery. So it's really important that over the course of the run we use battery-saving strategies in order to, mostly to access areas we shouldn't, because the game has a progression system where you're supposed to make the family happy, which gets you an upgrade to your battery meter. But getting those battery upgrades takes like a minute each, and it's a really long and slow cutscene, and I don't really feel like sitting through that. So we're through day 1 now, which is just, like I said, kind of the tutorial. Once we get out of the Chibi house here is when we get to start showing off the run itself, but that's kind of our airstrip, if you will, of the run.
So that was our quick little tutorial right there?
Yep. The premise is that we were purchased for the character Jenny as a birthday present, which was really just a self-indulgent thing for the dad, because of course.
Like so many birthday presents before.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of interesting right here. After this dialogue, it's going to ask us whether or not we want to save. We're actually going to save on purpose and reset, because there's a couple of lines of dialogue right after this bit. So I'm going to save, and then as soon as I see the file change over, I reset. And so normally there's lines of dialogue that play after you do that save dialogue for the first time. But if you save and reset, the game saves the flag for, it's like, oh, you've already seen that text. So it's just going to skip it for you, and it saves about 12 seconds. So now we're going to be loading in, and the game's going to introduce us to the day-night timer, but I don't want to talk about it just yet because that's not super important this cycle. What I want to talk about a bit more is the first real battery-saving technique that we're going to use, which is just generally called sliding. We're very good at naming things in this community. But the way it works is that Chibi-Robo has a skin animation when you're running at full speed and then instantly turn around. So if you normally the game tries to self-correct and turn Chibi-Robo around in the opposite direction. But if you are running forward and then snap back perfectly in the opposite direction, you can actually get a good enough angle where the game isn't actually able to turn you around. And for whatever reason, this backward skidding animation uses less battery than it does for your normal walk cycle. And so you're going to be seeing me using sliding all over the place. On top of it saving time at recharges, which I'll mention briefly later, it's also crucial for a lot of our ability to access late game areas early, as well as being able to make the cycles and routes that you're going to be seeing in this run. So this first cycle, our goal is to get into the kitchen, but in order, please, yeah, this toothbrush has an interesting hitbox. But in order to get into the kitchen, we have a laundry list of things we have to do. We have to get the toothbrush, clean up some stains, which activates a cutscene flag, and then we go through a bunch of cutscenes to get a costume. This costume will allow us to dab, and that dab makes one of the characters blocking our way very afraid, and that will allow us to get access into the kitchen. So you're going to be seeing me enter a Chibi door. These are essentially pocket dimensions which have money in them. I wish these existed in real life, but unfortunately, you know, reality is a burden here. But we're going to be using these as our exclusive source for money in the run, for the most part. And the reason why is that they all have a set amount of money, and generally the ones that are harder to find have more cash in them. And the other major way to get money is by throwing out trash. Now the problem with throwing out trash is that every time you throw out trash, or you pick up trash even, it activates a little cutscene. And that cutscene is problematic because of the in-game timer system. So the way this game is structured is that certain in-game events will only occur a set amount of cycles after a crucial flag has occurred. So in order to go fast, we need to make sure that this in-game timer is running constantly in order to just make sure that we're getting to each cycle on time. Now the problem with picking up trash is every time you pick up a piece of trash, it will pause the in-game timer until you're done picking it up. And then on top of that, you also have the animations for throwing away the trash in the trash bin, which take up a lot of time off that timer. On top of that, it also just doesn't give you a lot of money. So instead of the game rewarding you for being environmentally friendly, we're just going to go into all these pocket dimensions and get us money. Because each pocket dimension we enter only costs us around 18 seconds off the in-game time. So this is Drake Redcrest. He is undeniably the best character in the game. It's very obvious why. Unfortunately, we're not playing on English, so you can't read any of his hilarious dialogue, but he's telling us about being a space ranger. He's gonna give us a costume that will eventually allow us to dab. It's very crucial here that I say no. He's gonna ask us if we know how to put on a piece of clothing, and I, being a functional adult, definitely know how to put on a piece of clothing. So I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate my ability to put on clothing. There we go, first try. And then we're gonna go talk to Drake, and he's gonna teach us to dab, because I am not hip with the youngins, so, yep. You thought I was joking, but we're actually dabbing in this game. And our dabs are gonna eventually be so powerful that it scares off one of the characters.
Our dabs are so powerful they block out the sun.
Actually, when you're doing an all stickers run, when you have to find the character we move out of the way later, and your dab is so powerful at that point that you actually literally kill the character and have to resuscitate them later. I do not make this up.
When I'm confronted with an especially powerful dab, I also do take a mortal blow.
Alright, so this is the dabbing minigame. This is how we learn how to dab with proper timing. It's a quick time event reaction minigame where Drake is gonna wait a variable amount of time, and then I have to time a Z input to when he dabs so we can dab in sync. Because it's like a constructive wave type effect that amplifies it, I guess. Alright, let's see here. Oh, I was a little too late. Well, he like jukes me sometimes. There we go. That was a fast one at least. So sometimes you can lose up to like 3 or 4 seconds there, depending on if he just decides, oh, I'm just gonna wait here forever. I'm gonna completely fake you out. That's the pattern I thought I was gonna get, so that's kind of why I beefed it.
I was gonna ask you if he can delay enough for it to be particularly meaningful in a speedrun.
Yeah, it's at worst 5 seconds.
Okay.
But for any percent runs of this game, it's not like so crazy that it's like, oh, I'm gonna, especially because of a certain thing at the hour 40 mark that we'll talk about.
You very likely would not reset over a bad dab, and that's not a sentence I thought I would ever say.
Well, maybe I would, because I'm kind of a tryhard, but that's besides the point. Okay, so, very important, I take off the dabbing costume, because if I approach Sophie over here with the costume on, she'll actually say an extra line of dialogue, because she mistakes us for the character who dabs. Very specific. So, over the course of this cycle, I've been very careful to manage my battery here, because dabbing is so powerful that it drains 30 watts from our battery. And on top of that, we also need a minimum of 35 watts in order for the game to allow us to even try to dab in the first place. They really don't want us to die by a dab, which I can totally respect. However, we also need to open a chibi door after this in the kitchen, so we need to have around at least 45 or 43 or so battery going into this cutscene in order to be able to skip a recharge. A lot of the battery optimizations that we are doing are to minimize the amount of times we have to go take a pit stop to recharge the battery, because those animations can take a really long time. So a lot of times throughout the run, you're going to see me do, at max, like 1 to 2 recharges per cycle. And just for context, when I say cycle, I mean a day or a night, not a day and a night combined. It's going to get very confusing, and this game is like onion layers levels of just complexity. I'm sorry, I had to make the joke at least once. But we dabbed on Sophie, and now she's really shook, and she's going to get out of our way. You may be wondering if there's a way to skip this. Unfortunately, there's not. We've figured out ways to get behind the door to the cutscene sugar. But if you manage to get there, the game will soft lock. Because, of course. Alright, I'm gonna go for a swag strat that doesn't save any time. I got it, nice. Okay, if you grab your plug the moment you hit the cutscene trigger, you pick it up during the transition, and it'll look really funky as soon as I load in here. Oh, okay, the door's obscuring it a little bit. But I'll try to go for it in other spots, too. Please work motion controls, thank you. Alright, so this is a free 150. It may not seem like a lot, but we're trying to hit a very specific moolah threshold by the time that we get to the end of the cycle so we can buy the blaster. So this is the only recharge that we're going to be taking this cycle. And we're going to be doing, I'm actually going to save here for marathon safety. Because this next part is a little bit tricky, and I have to hit a rather tight day-night cycle. So this is where we start to really break the sequence of the game. Normally the game intends for us to go through the foyer with gaining a mug upgrade, which allows us to deflect some shots from some NPCs. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to face to this wall, and it's just going to let me get to the foyer my own way. So that looked really simple, but there's actually a bit more going on under the hood. What I'm doing there is I'm abusing the slide again. So when you slide, Chibi-Robo kind of sticks out his rear end a little bit, and it extends into the wall slightly. So what I do is I trigger that slide next to a wall, and then I buffer an upward input by very quickly opening and closing the equipment menu. And that buffered forward input will actually keep me inside the wall and allow me to get past.
Wow.
And this, yeah, it's...
There's a lot more going to it than it looks. It looked like you just hit the slide button and that was it.
Yeah, no, it's... And that was one of the easier kinds where I'm doing it from a front-facing angle. This next one we're going to be doing for a trick known as stair skip requires me to do it... Well, the way I do it from a sideways angle, which is much more difficult. So I'm actually going to focus here real quick because it's right here. I have been hitting this in practice, though. That can happen sometimes if I'm mashing too fast. Okay, we got it like fourth try. Nice. Okay, so what that did is I did a clip through that wall right there to land on that swing set thing. Now, normally you're not actually supposed to be up in the rafters until you purchase the Chibi Blaster. And you're supposed to do this really long climbing sequence. You have to shoot down something with the blaster. Really long and annoying, and there's like a boatload of cutscene you'd have to sit through. But by doing that, we skipped about 3 minutes worth of cutscene, and we can get all this money early and get the Chibi battery on the earliest cycle possible, which is very important for hitting some crucial story flies, which I'll talk about in a sec.
I mean, for how much work you did to get there, 300 seems like a big get there.
Yeah. Our goal is to have just the minimum amount of money that we need, because we're going to be doing a death abuse that will lose us some money. Oh, I should have spoiled that, because I could have made that classic funny joke. It's like, oh no, I'm dying. But, oh well. We're going meta commentary here today. Oh no, I'm dying. Wait, I actually beefed the strat. Okay, so if you do that right, you fall straight into the cutscene trigger, so I'm going to have to take an extra recharge. But I tried to be cool. You can't fault me for trying to be cool.
It's all about entertainment.
Yeah.
Everything in service of the entertainment.
It's in service of the people.
So you're playing on the Wii version. Is it just on its own because it's faster, or are there more tricks that are available specifically in this version?
Yes. So there's one specific trick that I don't want to spoil quite yet because it looks really sick. But that won't come up until much, much later into the run. But actually, speak of the devil, it's kind of important now, is one of the interesting quirks of this version is that it runs in 60 FPS compared to the 30 FPS of the GameCube releases. And the reason that's important is that the speeds of some of the unskippable cutscenes without text boxes are actually tied to the frame rate, which is kind of interesting. So, for example, this cutscene that's going to come up, that's kind of filling us in about the history of Giga-Robo, all of the different, like, it's like a PowerPoint presentation, right? But all of the slides play through faster because they're running at 60 FPS. So it saves several seconds in here for absolutely.
So they fixed movement and physics, but they didn't fix the cutscenes, and so the cutscenes are naturally faster.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's cool.
So all of these slides would be like double the length normally. Like they're cycling through these super fast, where each would take like an extra couple of seconds. I I also really like this cutscene because it's a good example of a game doing a show and not a tell, as far as story and world building goes. So I'm just gonna kind of shut up and let it do its magic. Very pretty art too. Very sad. Can we get a Bible thump in the chat for our boy Giga-Robo?
Poor guy.
Poor guy. You hate to see it. You hate to cause a worldwide power shortage and economic disaster. You pretend like I'm making this up.
Chibi's like, man, I better not take too much energy, otherwise I'm gonna end up down here.
Yeah. we're just taking a nap in our dad costume. It's all good. So we have to activate this cutscene in order to get the Giga battery to fall out of the thing. We can't like go Shadow of the Colossus on it and just pull it out. So we have to sit through some cutscene. This is another instance where the Japanese text really starts to save time because this is probably the most cutscene heavy part of the run. Just because we're doing... the game doesn't normally intend for us to do all of these cutscenes back to back, but because we did stair skip, we're going to be front-loading a lot of the cutscenes as a result. So while we're going through this, I kind of want to introduce a concept to the run known as early spy doors or night 2 spy doors. So like I said at the beginning of the run, certain events will trigger a certain set number of cycles after you hit a key flag. So the first key flag that we need to hit in order to progress the run is delivering the Giga Charger and the Giga Battery over to the Chibi house. And a day cycle and night cycle. After that happens, we're able to progress to the next part of the game. And so it's very important that we do this now, because that will allow us to get to that part much earlier and reduce a lot of downtime. So another interesting quirk of the Wii version right there is for a lot of the heavier objects in the game, they added a motion control specifically for picking those up to increase the immersion. However, because of that, if you flick it quickly enough, you can actually pick up the objects faster than you can on the GameCube version, which saves a handful of seconds over the course of the run. And it's really bizarre, but the Wii version's pretty crazy. Very good for speedrunning. It's actually kind of funny because this game actually goes back from a history standpoint to at least late 2012 on SDA forums. People have been routing this game for ages. And the running joke used to be that we couldn't break this game because we had one trick. It was a very early version of the mug skip, which is the trick that you saw me do to get to the basement early. And that was like the only thing we had for years. And then we found wall clipping, and then everything just kind of evaporated instantly. Actually, no, that's not true. We had a very dumb version of stair skip, where instead of clipping through the wall, you essentially hovered around the wooden post with a really bad camera angle, and it was actually a terrible trick. But now we have an easier setup.
So what sorts of motion controls does the new play control add, aside from, you've already mentioned being able to pick up items slightly faster, and it seemed like some of the doors that you were opening, you had to twist the Wiimote in order to turn the key, more or less.
Yeah. So that's one of the bigger ones. That just replaces like holding right on the analog stick from the GameCube versions. The toothbrush thing that you saw me briefly use, that has a motion control now. It sucks. And then the real big thing, it's not really a motion control, it's the cursor pointer. So with the blaster, now you have the ability to aim, which this game was never designed around when it was made for the GameCube. So sometimes when you're trying to aim manually, you'll shoot, and then the game will think you're aiming at something in the foreground when you're facing forward. So Chibi will do like an instant 180 and shoot behind him. And sometimes he'll even shoot himself in the head.
It feels like sometimes just motion controls are a big hindrance, especially for speedruns where precision and speed are desired. It's nice to see that some of those quirks do pay off in the speedrun. I mean, it's clearly a faster category.
Yeah. There's actually something that you'll see me do later. The blaster's really critical for locating invisible chibi doors that make a lot of bank. And you'll actually see me purposefully point my cursor far enough down below that the sensor bar won't be shown. It won't be reading on the sensor bar. And if you're doing that, the game will default to shooting the thing in a straight line, like on the GameCube version. So I'll actually do that on purpose to make sure that I don't whiff shots. I have actually lost runs to whiffing shots on doors because I took one too many shots and I didn't have enough battery.
I like that it has a little loading bar for every single time you jump, just to see, do you really want to spend the energy on this?
Yeah, even though just walking against it, rubbing your character against it will still consume battery. Realism, immersion. All right, so these are the guys that we skipped earlier. Now, normally, casually, there's a sequence where, like I said, you're supposed to grab a mug piece of equipment, and these guys have actual guns, which is a Japanese exclusive thing. In the game, in the original, it was like wooden toy prop guns, but they actually are textured to look like guns in this version. I'm sure you can understand why that got changed for Western releases. But we've actually had several ways over the years to be able to skip straight through the foyer and avoid getting the mug. The original way that was found in 2013 was that, funny enough, with the equipment menu, things in the environment still continue to move and stuff, but time is sort of frozen in some ways. So you would actually use the equipment menu to take a hit from a bullet and avoid damage, but you would still be in hit stun. So you would essentially do a series of pause buffers across the room to avoid having to get the mug. And then after that, we found the first out of bounds in the run called ladder clipping, where you would die, get revived by a spare battery upgrade, and you would have died inside of the ladder. And then from there, you could walk then through the ladder out of bounds, and then you had 20 battery to navigate out of bounds with terrible camera angles in order to get into the foyer. It was probably the hardest trick that's ever been found for this game. But now that we have wall clipping on any wall in the game, we don't have to worry about that at all.
Sometimes those problems just solve themselves.
Yeah. There's a really kind of interesting way that trick got discovered too. But before we go into that, I actually have a series of really difficult clips I need to focus for something that is completely hilarious but does save time. So I'll explain once I get it. These angles are really tight though. Okay, there's the first one. There we go. There's the second one. That's the second hardest. So there's a golden coin out here. If I can find it. Where are you? Thank you. So the developers left like a golden 100 coin outside the boundaries of the map for some bizarre reason, and it refreshes every cycle. So you're actually going to be seeing me go back there a lot because it turns out that 100 coin actually really does add up over the course of the run. It's so bizarre that it's there. There's a bunch of other like random stuff that you can find hidden out of bounds. That's the most useful one for us because it gives us a bunch of money.
Strange thing to just leave out of bounds.
Yeah, my guess was I don't know if it was from like the level design and building stage where they had it as like a copy and paste type of asset, or they were going to put it somewhere and then they just didn't. There's some other really strange stuff you can find out of bounds. If we have time at the end of the run, I may show it off. In the living room, there is a golden halo of light that is actually an electrical outlet, and we have no idea why it's there. And you can actually save there. And every time you load in, you'll load in out of bounds. It's really cool. But it's actually very critical that we see this cutscene because this cutscene is the one that sets the flag for the spider enemies to spawn in on night 2. So I very specifically have to sit through this cutscene now. So I apologize for the front loading of the cutscene, but it's fast to deal with it. Something I'll mention though that's they added in the Wii version is a lot of these metallic textures are actually upgraded from the GameCube versions. They're a lot glossier, a lot prettier looking. They generally, I guess, look a bit less reflective on the GameCube versions. I don't know actually which I prefer. I'm kind of biased because I have been playing the GameCube version since I was like 5. But you can also do that on the loading screen, and it drives everyone crazy. So I'm going to be doing it throughout the run. So the bonus reward that you get for going through the cycle quickly enough is you can actually access some 50 coins up here that also regenerate each cycle. So I'm going to be trying to move through here rather quick to try to... I might be a little behind for the other 50, but we'll see what happens. I should be good. It'll be close. Okay, we got it. There we go. Okay, so we did everything perfect that cycle, so that gets us an extra 100, which isn't super significant, but it gives us a lot of wiggle room and safety, so that's also really hard to do, so I'm glad I got to show that off.
So that was the end of the first cycle?
That was the end of the first cycle, and I know that took like forever and a day, but that's by far the longest cycle. And we're going straight from night 1 into day 2, which in my opinion is by far the hardest cycle in the entire run. It's got a lot of really crazy tricks. There's there's so much going on this cycle. If everything falls into place, this is just one of the coolest parts of the whole run. So what we're doing here at the start is we have almost exactly what we need. We got a little extra because it just gives us some padding to buy the Chibi Blaster. Now this is not super important quite yet. It's mostly important because buying this triggers the ability to purchase the charge chip, which is going to be necessary for the next cycle. But we're not going to be coming back to purchase it until we have more money because we're a little stretched for cash right now. And we're going to be a little more stretched for cash after our medical bill coming up in a second. Alright, so 200. Where's that going to put us after we die? It's going to put us like 160 something. Okay, I'm doing mental math in my head right now. Alright, so I apologize in advance for headphone users. I'm going to do the thing where I point my cursor off screen, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm just going to mash the A button. And this is going to kill Chibi-Robo, so I'm sorry. You can put your F's in chat now. This is very important. The reason why is, despite having to like take out like probably loans for medical stuff, it actually saves us money over the long run because the first time you die, you get wrapped up in what's called the trauma suit. Now, the trauma... Okay, 160 right on the dot. Cool, I can do math. All right, so the trauma suit is another costume that instead of having the ability to dab, we have the ability to die on command. So what that does is we basically fake our own death, which scares Telly into immediately warping us back to the Chibi house at will. Now, this won't come up for a bit more, but this is the best opportunity that we have to get it. Mostly because when we die, we lose a small percentage of our money, and this is the point of the run where we have the least amount of money and the fastest way to kill ourselves. So it's the most efficient time to get this done. So we've got a bit more cutscene here where Telly is gonna berate us for not dying. Back in the old route, we would actually do this much earlier, so that we purposely died to unlock the spare battery, which is what we would use for the old basement early thing. But this dialogue is just telling us the charge chip is available. Yeah. Once we leave the house here, before I do, I'm actually going to safety save because, like I said, this part of the run is very, very difficult. And I do not trust myself.
You said that the trauma suit allows you to die on command, like you actually will end up losing the money for it?
No, you fake your own death, so you don't actually have to pay any medical bills.
So it's like a quick warp back to the base.
Yeah. Well, it's not always efficient all the time, but I'll explain. It's not super important for a couple more cycles. Okay, so in day 2, because we're waiting for another cycle for the next story trigger, we're going to go grab a lot of money. To start, I'm going to do a trick called Lamp CS Skip, where I hover down onto this electrical cable. Now, there's normally a cutscene trigger that teaches us how to climb up things, but it's essentially a flat plane that's sort of level with the floor. So as long as we're just above it, we're actually able to grab onto the thing and skip the cutscene. So that saves around 12 seconds. And while the setup may look longer than 12 seconds to get going, it's actually faster because of the in-game time system. Because even if we do everything like super duper fast, we still have extra time at the end of the cycle anyway. So because of like the intersection of how the timer and our movement works, it actually does save the full 12 seconds. On top of that, this is also a free 450 with a 50 coin, as well as this door, which gives us 400. Now it's also critical that I move quickly through these doors too, because like I said, I'm running against the clock, or the clock is off here. Anyway, that's a plug drop. A lot of stuff going on quickly. Essentially what I do there is I grab my plug as I'm falling off of the ledge there. And during a lot of animations in this game, Chibi-Robo is intangible where you can't take damage, but things can still happen, and so you can use that to basically negate fall damage. Right into another crazy one here. Let me try to focus for this one. This is the hard part. Okay. Struggling a bit in practice. There we go. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that looks a little strange. That's called a drawer glitch. Essentially, the game doesn't properly know how to handle pulling objects when you're pulling them from any angle other than up and down. So if you pull it with the camera facing one direction and then you quickly flip the camera, you trick the game into pulling the drawer in a different direction, which allows you to actually pull it off its rails. And the purpose of that was to avoid having to use the Chibi-Copter to reach that door and allow us to skip a recharge. So that was very overwhelming. I completely understand, but that was the more simple part. The hard part we haven't even reached yet. So this is the part of the run with like stuff kind of gets crazy. So now we're going to be going to the backyard to get a ton of money. Now, normally you're supposed to use the blaster on that broken glass right there to get in, but there's actually another loading trigger behind here that we're going to use to skip that sequencing cutscene. Okay, third try's pretty good. How quickly I get the tricks isn't necessarily as important as how much battery I have, because this is a very battery-type part of the run. That's also why I took a safety save, because this is very, very difficult, and I practice this a lot. Okay, so we're actually going to do something really cool where we're going to access a part of the game that most people don't get to see until the post-game. This is probably one of the most notable examples of where sliding really saves battery, because most people don't come up here until they have like a battery of somewhere around 200, which is fairly late game. But with all of the battery-saving techniques that we have more than enough time and battery to spare here. So we're specifically going up to like the band. I don't know the word. My mind is blanking because this part's hard. But we're going up to 3 very valuable doors. That's going to give us about 1,300 moolah, which is a ton. So I'm going to click through that web that you normally need the charge chip to break down. And this is bird skip. This is probably the single hardest trick in the run right here. Let me see if I can get this, and then I'll try to explain. Okay, that's good. Oh, wow, that was really clean, actually. Okay, and we're through. Sweet. Okay, so that looked really, really simple, but let me explain. So that bird, you're supposed to wake up with a squirter, which is, let's see, you squirt water on him, which is rather rude. But the way that you skip having to do that is you have to basically climb up onto that bird's nest at a very specific angle, because the ledge that you have to get on top of is like pixels wide. It's very small. And then on top of that, the angle that you have to clip through a very janky invisible wall to get past it. And the collision for it, like I said, janky. And then you have to hold a very specific angle as well that puts you at a risk for falling too. So the fact that I got that second try is actually really, really sick. So the purpose of that was to access that 300 door and then these 2 500 doors, which generally speaking, the more money you can get out of a door, the faster it is. So a lot of what goes into routing this game, like behind the scenes, is picking the doors that get us the most money. So one example of a route change that happened recently is that we went from having a segment where we picked up 2 200 doors to picking up 1 400 door. So that way we got the same amount of moolah, but we cut about 18 seconds of wandering around in the pocket dimension. All right, so this is our last 500 door, and we're done with day 2. So, all right, let me just do a plug drop for swag because we have the extra time. This is a game that doesn't reward you for swagging out, but you might as well take the time. But yeah, we're essentially, I did really, really well on day 2, so we have some extra time to chill here. So yeah, I don't know if any if people had questions or anything like that. If you saw anything.
No, I haven't seen. I mean, okay, so I have one. So it says, "Is this game hard to run?"
Yes and no. So the it depends on the route that you craft. So what's really cool about the routing for this game is it's really flexible to your skill level. You can take as many cycles as you need. You can purchase an extended timer to give you more time to complete each cycle. And there's actually a really good beginner tutorial in order to get into this run. So it's we actually had a new runner recently named Vicerian who actually picked up this run rather quickly. And like the thing of it is too is like it can be a little grindy. So it's for us it's just kind of like this thing that we take it seriously, but it's like we just try to get runs with the most optimal route, because doing in that in of itself is an achievement, if that makes any sense, in a roundabout way. But as far as accessibility goes, this run is actually really not that hard to get into. There's only a couple, you have to learn wall clipping at a bare minimum. That's really it. You can learn the battery saving techniques if you want, but you don't necessarily have to. You can still route around that and route to your skill level. And if you need help with that, I'll plug the Discord later, and we would be more than happy to help you folks if you're interested in learning this run, because it is so much fun to run this game.
Yeah, the follow-up for that question is it fun to run? And I don't run it, but I already know the answer is yes. Just watching
yes!
it, so...
But maybe not necessarily at top level. It's also dependent on the version you run. I think this version is very fun for me to run. If you're grinding for world record, it can be very frustrating due to some RNG elements in mid to late game. But as far as for most skill levels, it's very fun to run. And if any percent's not your fancy, I'll mention this a bit more towards the end when I'm doing community shoutouts. This game has a really sick lockout bingo format. Oh wait, I need to go back inside. Sorry. But this game has a really sick lockout bingo format, and the community has pre-made save files for that and stuff like that, and you don't even need to own a copy of the game. We have setups for people who run on Dolphin Emulator who can't afford a copy of the game. So I'll talk about that a bit more later. But in order to trigger the spy doors, I have to leave and re-enter. I kind of autopiloted a little bit because I was like, oh, I'm so ready to go to the basement. It's gonna be great. So these are the spy doors. Now, spy doors are really the only enemies in this game, and their deal is that they drop scrap. And what scrap does is that we can recycle it for what are called utilibots, and those allow us to access more areas in the environment. We can make ladders, we can make bridges, and we can make warps, which allow us to reduce backtracking. For in order to get to the upstairs, which is the next crucial area for the story, we need to have, the foyer ladder, which allows us to climb up there, and then it's fast to eventually get enough scrap to purchase the foyer warp to be able to get up there faster. So each spy door can drop 10, 50, or 100 scrap, similar to the random coin drops from the drawers you've been seeing. But this particular fight is programmed to drop exactly 490 scrap. So the benefit of getting this cutscene out of the way so early is that it increases the flexibility of being able to grab scrap when we need to. So essentially, before we would front load all of our scrap collection in day 3, which would create a lot of problems because if we couldn't get our scrap fast enough, we wouldn't make the end of the cycle. But now because it's more spread out, we can more consistently get all of our scrap done. So now you get to see, folks, how kind of janky the shooting controls are. They home in, ideally, but sometimes they don't. They're going to latch on to me, aren't they? You can shoot them off of yourself, which is kind of amazing. Those are spy doors. I should have a good amount of battery. But we're going to head straight into the kitchen because there is a spawn of spy doors, hopefully directly in the next part of the kitchen.
Drake's over there cheering for you.
Yeah, he's hype. He's trying out more dance moves besides dab.
He's like, don't forget to dab. For power.
Yeah, you gotta flex on the spy doors. Alright, so they can spawn here or a little bit further away. Okay, we got the further away position, that's okay. We're gonna check this area for spy doors, and then we're gonna go collect some money. We can't actually do the thing we need to do to progress the game upstairs until the next cycle. So we gotta go kill these spy doors right here. So we got 5 in this spot, which is okay. Those are actually really good drops, okay. So the big screws are 100, and the nuts are 50. So having around 700 right now is a really good start. We need 1200 as a threshold in order to do what we need to do. So I actually don't need to save on this one, thankfully, because we're gonna actually have another recharge after this. But we're now that we have, okay, let me just make sure that I actually bought charge ship. I did buy the charge ship. Okay. Not losing a bunch of time. Cool! So the charge ship is really important because in addition to dealing extra enemies to some late game, or extra damage to some late game enemies, They're useful for revealing invisible chibi doors. Normally, you're not able to discover the location of them until you can pick them up on sonar through an upgrade called the Chibi Radar. However, they're in preset locations, so I, being the genius I am, know where they are all located. So we have routed a lot of these in because they're so well hidden, they made them worth a lot of moolah. So we're going to be coming up here to grab some money. We're going to be using the rest of the cycle to grab some money. And the rest of this cycle is also very difficult and very tight. Not as crazy as day 2, but still very difficult. This is going to get us 300, and then the next one, I believe, gets us 500 if I remember correctly. You're going to see me just fall off the ledge instead of hitting A to hover in a lot of places as well, just to save battery. And then I'm going to do the thing where I point my cursor off screen again, just to make sure that, There we go, okay. I have lost at least 2 runs to missing the shot on that door. Obviously, in a marathon run, it wouldn't kill it because we could just
at
recharge.
point blank, shooting,
yes,
missing the door.
Oh, you know why? Because he does a 180.
Yeah.
Yeah, great game. So 2 tight plug drops back to back, and we're actually gonna go straight to the basement. Now, the basement actually has 4 doors in total. We grabbed one of them already in the first night. We're gonna be going back down to the basement to grab the other 3 because they're all very valuable. So this is Jenny crying. She's crying because, spoilers, there's marital issues going on. Yeah, this game gets a little dark in places.
Oof, that's heavy.
You hate to see it.
For the Nintendo
it's okay,
GameCube.
we're gonna save their... Yep. It's okay, we're gonna save their marriage through the power of corporate consumerism anyway, so it's not a big deal. Alright, so... Now, because we did stair skip earlier, in order to get the 3 doors, we actually have to do stair skip again. But we can't do that quite yet. And the reason why is that there's a cutscene with Pico here. And we'll talk a little bit more about our friend Pico here. But we need to sit through this cutscene because if we attempt to do stair skip, we will hit the cutscene while we're hovering, and then it just makes the trick all for naught.
Are we all toys? Is everyone toys here?
Yeah. No, there's some frogs. There's some aliens. We'll meet the aliens later. Let's see. There's some rats in a sewer drain, but they kind of just try to hurt you. You don't have to go down there, though. That's only for fun, though.
It's like Toy Story, but with less Randy Newman.
And more consumer. I'm gonna go all in on the joke, I'm so sorry. Feel free, if you just need to, just mute my mic if I'm being a bit close to that.
No, chat is actually loving your commentary, by the way. You are a commentary machine.
Thank you, that's very
You have talked for 46 minutes straight, and every bit of it has been interesting and entertaining.
Consequence of the anxiety, I suppose. Getting there, though. So, our poor boy Plankbeard is gonna get robbed. We in the community collectively hate Plankbeard because one of the things they actually do in this game that's really cool is the speed of the text kind of correlates to the way that the different characters talk in this game. And like the text will even shake or have different effects depending on their mood or the So Plankbeard, because he's like an old whippersnapper or whatever, he talks very slow. So as a result, he's very annoying, especially in the all stickers run. He takes forever. He is so annoying. But I will be safety saving here again because in addition to having to hit stair skip rather quickly, I also have to hit some very tight battery management and a couple of tight plug drops. This is very tight in terms of battery as well as the day-night cycle, but our day-night is already looking fairly solid because I hit the plug drops earlier. So we're going to climb up the stairs again. You know how it is. It's unfortunate, though, because there is a warp utilibot that you can unlock, but it's the last one that you're able to purchase, so this is also, like, one of the last, like, we'll be visiting the basement multiple times, but this is, like, the last, not, like, major time, but, like, super significant time. Okay, here comes stair skip. There we go. Okay, that should be good enough. And then every movement I'm doing from here on out is mostly intentional. And the ones that aren't intentional are actually intentional. It's just I suck. So I'm actually just hovering off of here instead of doing the glide with the A button, again, to reduce battery consumption. And then this door is a free 400. Right. Now, one of the things that comes with learning the game is you have to not necessarily memorize like what each door's like moolah patterns are, but you have to know in general what the patterns are and how to most optimally move through them. Because, like I said, you're pausing the in-game clock when you're in those segments, so it's crucial that you try to move there as fast as possible because it's one of like the main movement sections where like it's directly tied to your movement, as opposed to the roundabout way that the sliding saves time, which I'll talk about next cycle, I suppose, if I manage to remember to talk about it. All right, so after this, I've got one more major plug drop. If I hit this, it's going to look really sick. I'm looking for a specific positioning to land on a very small piece of brick. Oh, I got it. Nice. Okay. So that's you're supposed to normally pull that, but I'm cool, so I avoided doing it. And there we go, we made the cycle. Now, because I have a little extra time, there are some spiders that can spawn right below this platform. I don't have much battery, but there's some things I can, ways I can escape them. Let's see here. They did not spawn, okay, so we don't gotta worry about it. Alright, so that's night 2, that went without a hitch. So this run's actually been really good. Hooray! I don't suck that bad. Only a little bit. Alright, so let's set up the next cycle now while we're waiting. So our goal is to get upstairs to open the bedroom slats. Now, their bedroom door has these slats installed that allow you to sort of look through the door while maintaining some privacy. But they're closed at night. So what we gotta do is go upstairs with the new utilibot that we're about to craft in a little bit. And then from there, we're going to head upstairs, open the slats, and then use our remaining time to grab more money. So now, if you get very lucky with money drops at this point of the run, you can get a bunch of extra coins from drawers. And if you get enough, you can actually react to that and avoid having to open a door. But first of all, this is a marathon run, so I wouldn't even bother unless I got like 6 100 coins, which is statistically impossible. I'm sitting here just in case, because I need to make sure I purchase the correct utilibot, or else I'm kind of screwed. I have lost runs to doing this. Alright, so we start out by having controller snapback and menuing to the wrong place. We're gonna get this ladder. This is the living room ladder. You're never gonna see me use it, but it is a prerequisite to buying the foyer ladder and the kitchen ladder, which we then need to have as prereqs for getting the foyer warp. This game is like layer upon layer upon layer. I'm trying to do my best to explain, but I'm trying not to make onion jokes.
The game obviously has a ton of depth. It's really fascinating because I don't think on the surface it's obvious how much this game has going on.
Yeah, and you really start to see that shine through when you look at the bingo format. The bingo format is all about routing, room and map awareness, battery management, and because it's lockout, there's a lot of strategy that where people will set up for plays from like way far, like at the beginning of the first 20 minutes of the match. Lockout bingo is super fun. We actually got to show it off. There was like a bingo-based marathon that me and another runner, Kabasco, we got to do that. It was a lot of fun. If you're interested in picking up this game but are kind of worried about the length of the 80% run, highly, highly recommend looking into bingo and giving us a message about it. Because we would be more than down into looking for more people to play bingo with. So this is the infamous Teriyaki Blues cutscene. Tilly's gonna reveal the thing, and then he's gonna like tell us a song. So there's not too much going on here. It's a fun cutscene, but I'd like to take a moment to talk a bit about why am I actually here. So I am a type 1 diabetic, and for those of you who don't know, what that means is that I have an autoimmune condition where my immune system mistakenly attacks these cells in my body that produce insulin. So insulin's job is to take the sugar that you get from food and convert it into a form that's usable by your body. But when those cells get attacked, you can't make insulin, right? And that becomes kind of a problem. So I don't want to bore you all with like the here's the giant rundown on type 1 diabetes, right? Let me just, I'd like to keep it in the perspective of speedrunning, I suppose. So the way it matters is mostly through kind of the symptoms of it. The important ones are the high blood sugars and the low blood sugars. So low blood sugar is, the names are kind of self-evident. It's based on the amount of like sugar you have in your bloodstream that your body has available to use as energy, right? And so when you get low blood sugar, what can end up happening is you can get super shaky, lightheaded, etc. And it can actually get very, very dangerous. And sometimes I'll just have to either treat that low blood sugar mid-run by eating a snack, or in some cases I may just cut off a run entirely in order just to manage that safely. And then in other instances, I'll have high blood sugars, which aren't immediately dangerous, but they tend to cause fatigue, brain fog. The way I would describe it is it's like it feels like a slushy is running through the blood vessels in your brain. That's the best way I just think and feel slow when that happens. Now, I don't say this because I want your sympathy or your pity, but it's interesting because it really, at a time in my life, forced me to reevaluate the way that I think about speedrunning in a way. And it's kind of interesting too because this game in turn also really helped me to kind of be able to continue to do speedrunning. Because even though this game is rather cutscene heavy for most tastes, those cutscenes are actually really crucial for me as a speedrunner because they give me opportunities to monitor my blood sugar and to be safe. So I know like sometimes those cutscenes can be like a little boring especially if you see them all the time, but for me they're vital. So yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about the type 1 type stuff, but for now, we're back into gameplay. We're going into the foyer to look for more spiders because we need more scrap. They should spawn in here somewhere. There they are. Ooh, this does not look like a good spawn. That's not a blaster.
I do want to say that I think it's relatively impressive that you can play a game with motion controls. I have certain issues that cause me to have especially shaky hands, and I've tried in the past to speedrun games with motion controls, and I found it to be, for me personally, incredibly frustrating. And I think it's impressive how well you manage at a game with motion controls, considering your disability does affect you in that specific way that I can relate to.
Yeah, that is a part of it, and at the same time, it also just makes general tech skill hard, especially with the menu clipping. If I'm feeling super shaky, sometimes my palms will get super sweaty too, and that can make it rather difficult to get those precise inputs in, because I need a more firm grip on the controller than. The spiders are giving me rather trash luck here. Oh, that's another one. Okay, so I'm doing a bit of an exploit here where I save and reload. And for whatever reason, if you save and reset the game, it will cause any spiders that you have killed to respawn. So I'm doing this in order to grind for the scrap that we need. If you get lucky, you can get all the scrap that you need and not have to even go to the spot in the first place. But we got a little bit unlucky, so we have to grind a little bit more. We need to hit 600 in order to have all the scrap that we need, because we already purchased 2 of the upgrades that we need. It's also really kind of cool, a quirk this game has where the resets are super fast. Like, you hit the reset button, it's almost instant, and it's kind of amazing. I don't really know how they manage that, considering the loading times of this game, but it is something I don't take for granted. Oh, so close. I'm going to have to take one more save and reset. Should I? I'm actually just going to do a flat reset, because I'm a little worried about the day-night timer. If you take a little too long grinding scrap, you put yourself at a risk of not having enough time to complete the cycle. So I'm going to take it a bit safer for marathon purposes. Not a huge deal. 30 seconds at the most.
Seems like the game's paying you back for good scrap earlier.
Yeah. Oh, there's a hundo. Okay, 50. There we go. Oh, wow. Okay, well, there it is. All right, so going for recharge list. Ah, screw it. Oh, right, because I need to look this up. So yes, but no. Okay. So now we gotta go raise the ladder up. I have to raise it up exactly 15 spots. And I'm gonna say no because I know how to raise ladders. Very important to say no to 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, here we go. And now, something I was going to mention this cycle is kind of the roundabout way that sliding actually saves time in its own right. And the reason why is that the sliding movement actually isn't physically faster. The reason why it's faster for the run is that when you slide more, you come into a recharge with more battery, which means that the process of recharging actually takes less time because you start recharging from a higher spot. So even though it might seem like I'm like sliding in a lot of places where it might not be necessary, it's actually rather important, which is kind of interesting. It's an interesting way where the movement does but doesn't save time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna comment. It's obvious at first that it's taking a little less energy in order to slide, but I would have suspected that it was faster on its own. But it's interesting how careful the routing is around not just speed but also energy consumption.
Right, and that's something you see a lot in the bingo too, because in bingo there's much more of an incentive. So there's a system in the game called happy points, which for those of you who all played the game casually, I'm sorry to break it to you, but happy points are completely useless. But that will be a lot funnier when I explain a bit more. But in bingo, for example, you might actually want to plan around getting those battery upgrades because you might need more battery even with good battery management. For example, in the bedroom, there's some really high value chibi doors up in the rafters of the room that you can't really access unless you either use a time freeze glitch. Yes, this game has one of those, but we don't. Well, maybe I'll show it off for swag, because it doesn't really lose time. Maybe. Also, I wasn't supposed to recharge here, but it's okay. Not a big deal. I can make this work.
We'll call it for safety.
Safety, right. Alright, so now we're doing the thing with going and getting the slats. And then from here, we're going to afterwards grab the 4 chibi doors that can be reached at base level. There's 12 in total, 4 on the quasi-ground level, and then 8 in the rafters. Obviously, in like a 100% run, you'd have to grab them all at some point. And the way that you grab the ones in the rafters is actually really, really cool. There's a run of the 100% category on the English disc by a runner named Single Scoop, who is an absolute legend at this game and has been probably actively routing and running this game since like 2013. And absolute beast. You should go follow him on Twitch. It's just Single Scoop. But it was something that he found for the hundo. So you should check out his it's called the All Stickers run. Just look it up. It's so sick. All right, so I'm actually going to safety save here.
How tight is the timing on those plug drops?
It's more lenient than you would expect. However, there the later the more delay you can get on getting your plug drop, so the further you slide off, the farther you can fall without taking damage. Because at some point, the animation for grabbing the plug will end, and then you'll actually start falling and be able to take fall damage. So in some cases, you need to hit a specific timing of a plug drop in order to ensure that you don't take any fall damage. Just kind of interesting. Okay, so here's the deal. I think I'm strapped for time on a door over there. So oh shoot, I forgot that cutscene was there. Okay, well this is going to be slightly scuffed, but I can make up for these doors. I was supposed to go straight into this cutscene. But I'm a little tight for time on the day-night cycle, which means I'm probably going to have to skip out on some doors for now and grab them during night 3, which will probably cost me some time. But it's not a huge deal. It's a marathon run. That's like the best kind of mistake to make in a run like this. And it's not even really my fault. It was mostly the scrap. So very important. I say yes here because it skips like 2 or 3 lines of text. This is a character named Dinah. She's a Lego dinosaur. I don't know if Lego or Duplo is more appropriate. I don't know which avoids more copyright. But we don't see her. She like totally destroyed this frog, which is kind of sad. So we're just gonna abandon him here for like the entire run. Poor guy. So my plan for right now is to grab 2-300 doors here for now. We're at the point in the run where we don't really need to buy any major upgrades until a very specific point in the run where we're gonna get most of our money. I don't want to exactly spoil how we're gonna do that quite yet. Oh, there's a 50. Where was that drawer luck? Forever ago. Yeah, just give me all of the drawer monies so I don't have to actually go and get any of those doors. Okay, never mind. Thanks, game. So there's a door right here I'm going to grab, and then a door under the bed. And then I'll make up for the extra 2 doors in the next cycle. Yeah, that should do it. That's 300. So a small little movement thing that you just saw me do right there that I kind of failed to mention is what I just kind of call a pivot turn. It's similar to a slide, except you do it like straight. Uh-oh. Am I going to make it? Nope, I'm not going to make it. If I make this, it's going to be by frames. Probably not. Yep. All right, that's fine. We'll get it later. It's not a big deal. So the way a pivot turns works is you pivot, like you kind of pivot with a slide right as you fall off, and instead of having that teeter animation, you just fall straight off the ledge. And it's a small little movement thing that saves a little battery and a little bit of time. RTA. A little more important for bingo and parts of late game, but it's cool. It looks fast. It gives me the illusion of knowing what I'm talking about. Alright, now night 3 is a really interesting case, because this is the one cycle that really kind of turns the formula that we've established of this run on its head. The premise of this cycle is that we need to go deliver a toy receipt to mom that dad hid in order to progress the marital angst, in order to eventually undo all the damage and promote healing in the family. So, interestingly enough, at night only, if you give her the receipt, it will instantly end the cycle. And this is really important because normally a cycle takes 5 minutes or so, but if you're able to do this cycle optimally, you can actually cut about 2.5 minutes off having to wait till the next cycle, because the next set of events is going to happen till the day. So, very interesting quirk of the run. So my movement actually does matter somewhat significantly here. So we bought the kitchen ladder because it was a prerequisite for the other upgrade, which is the foyer warp. The warp is very important for this segment because warping straight up the staircase in this segment saves a lot of RTA time over taking the ladder. And it's also very critical for a couple, the cycle after this from a movement standpoint. Something I'll mention right here is the plug itself. You see me picking up the plug in order to run faster, but in a lot of spots it's actually not that fast. The speed boost is only around 1.2 seconds, and it takes about a second in order to actually do the animation of picking up the plug. So if you're already aiming for like a target like a Chibi door or a Utilibot or an outlet, it's usually a good idea to pick up the plug, but in a lot of places it's actually suboptimal to pick up the plug. In this case, though, I pick it up as early as I can so I can post straight into the foyer work. Now, battery management is very important here because as soon as I talk to mom, it triggers a flag that will spawn in the toy receipt in the living room. And I need to have around 40 battery or so by the time I get to mom, so that when I get to her, I can fake my own death. And that will, in terms of RTA time, save the backtracking time of having to go back to the living room, because it'll put us right in the Chibi house. So this is the first time you'll get to see me fake my own death. Not the last time. I think we're going to do it 2 more times. Yeah. Those don't come until night 4, though.
Have you speedrun any of the other games in the series?
I have, actually. I have done a speedrun of Chibi-Robo Park Patrol on the DS. It's a spin-off. The sad thing is that the Chibi-Robo series at this point has more spin-offs than it does main games by a 3-to-2 ratio. Which is... but Park Patrol is actually really sick. It's a park tycoon game where you get to build your own park and save the environment and stuff. I did 1 run of it, and I routed it. It was a 5.5 hour long speedrun. So not for the faint of heart, but it's got some really interesting routing stuff to it. Don't see myself doing it anytime soon though, because that took a toll on me physically. Alright, so very important, we say yes to Mom here. If we deny Mom our love, she won't give us happy points and some extra money here. And the happy points we actually want for a battery upgrade that will make the next battery management cycle for day 4 possible. So very small detail, but it's going to be very crucial later.
Is there any compelling reason to say no to her anyway?
Yes, the compelling reason is that she has a bunch of extra text boxes
Gotcha.
that when you say yes, so saying no would be faster. But for this route, it makes more sense to say yes.
Gotcha.
In bingo, a lot of times you want to say yes because some of the bingo objectives might be reaching a certain happy point threshold. So that's a nice way to get in some extra chip damage on one of those objectives. But this is any % not bingo. We're just warping straight back here. And we also get an adorable ghost costume for free, which is nice. This is used for Hundo, but we get it for the first time using the trauma suit, and it's adorable. It's great. I love it.
Is it important to get battery upgrades in this route? You do get battery upgrades, right?
You do, and you do eventually, because the game will just force feed you happiness.
Right.
But as life should. But we trigger it early just to make sure that the route works. You ideally want to avoid as many as possible to avoid the cutscenes and to avoid longer recharge times.
That makes sense. Oh, when you recharge, you don't have a choice to do it partially. You have to do the whole thing.
You have to do it to full, correct?
Oh wow.
So
okay.
It becomes, and that's why managing your battery is so important from a movement standpoint, especially in late game, is because you gotta every upgrade is like another 20 watts added onto that timer. So if you can reduce that by an extra like 5 or 10, it actually really does start to add up for recharge. So generally speaking, we don't grab money at this point in the run because we're so we're gonna grab no, I don't need that 50 actually. I thought it was night 1 for a moment. Okay, so we're going over here to grab the toy receipt. We get a 50 for free, and then I'm doing very specifically angled hovers to avoid having to press A to hit the copter, just to save battery, make this more consistent. So that's the toy receipt, and while we're here, we're gonna grab another invisible chibi door. It's a free 300. It just makes sense. How this managed to get installed on a sofa while no one was looking will never cease to amaze me. But it's here, and it's free real estate. I'm surprised I haven't driven you insane already off.
No, I'm having a great time.
Sweet.
This is a trick for me because while I've been aware of Chibi-Robo, I've never watched the game or watched a speedrun of it. So I'm really enjoying this. This is like boot camp. You know, I'm receiving a lot of information.
Right. Right, and that's kind of the tragedy of the fact that the Japanese Wii version is the fastest, is because all of the dialogue and the writing is so funny, it's so good, the characters are amazing and or adorable, or both. If you haven't played this game, please try to. I know getting a disc can be rather expensive, but if you ever have the opportunity or have a friend who owns the game, seek it out at every opportunity. It's so good. Alright. So then this is normally the part of the run where I would go straight to giving the mom the toy receipt, but because I suck, I have to go straight into grabbing some extra moolah. So you would have seen me gotten all 4 of these doors in one cycle, but like I said, I suck. Slightly. Also, something I failed to mention, these plug drops that I'm doing off of the little ledge here for the slats is actually rather difficult. So yeah, I just thought I would stroke my own ego there. They're rather tight.
Kobazko's in chat. I haven't been relaying all of their messages, but I do feel it's important. They said that you need to translate the great cutscene in the next cycle.
The great cutscene in the next cycle? Oh, wait. I think I know. I don't remember the dialogue because I haven't played on English in ages. Oh gosh. Kobe, why you gotta do me like this, man? Don't hurt me.
I'll tell you what. If Kabazco types into chat, I will relay it.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Kobazko is another Chibi-Robo runner. He actually discovered a lot of the stuff that you're seeing in this route that is specific to the Wii version, and he was actually the one who did the first runs of this game on the Wii version, and is the reason why this game is probably getting shown off is because of him, and not just Single Scoop more so. Because Single Scoop's a beast. But Kobe really found some groundbreaking stuff within the last year that has really changed this run. Something I'll also mention here, because I know it will be worrying to some people who want to pick up the run. This game's any percent categories are actually split up by version. So we have a version for any percent on English discs, Japanese GameCube discs, and Japanese Wii discs. And the reason why is that each build of the game is a fundamentally different version of the game. So, for example, on the GameCube version versus the Japanese version, or the English versus Wii versions, they have different 100% requirements. So it just made sense to us to split those categories for all stickers and any percent instead of having an SRC leaderboard nightmare. And then on top of that, this game is also kind of a fundamentally different build because of different mechanics. Some things are slightly different in this game as well. And we did it because of how hard this game is to access in the first place, especially for people who want to run in English. We didn't want ability to access a copy of this game to be a limiting factor in people's ability to join us in the community. So if you're interested in picking up this game and you're like, oh, I have an English disc, but I heard this is the fastest version, go ahead and run English. It's actually interesting. Like, the English version has a much different route from like day 2 onward. It's actually really kind of cool.
Is that the same as well for the Wii version? Does it have a fundamentally different route for...
The Wii and GameCube discs have fundamentally different moolah routes from day 2 onward, and that's because of a exclusive glitch that is actually coming up soon-ish. But we're moving on to day 4. This is probably the easiest cycle in the run, and even though I say that, that's not saying much because the cycle is still rather difficult. This is a cycle that has changed a lot over the most recent iterations of the route, to the fact, in a similar situation, I shouldn't save here, that's slow. In a similar vein to how we route doors, we've condensed a lot of the money that we've gotten in this cycle from the route used to be a 15-door route, and now it's a 14-door route, and a lot of that has to do with the changes that we made in this cycle. So I'll explain exactly where we made those changes once it becomes applicable. But our goal here is to get upstairs, and then we're going to go watch some more marital strife, which leads to a proclamation of divorce. It's actually funny, we have a bingo objective on our bingo format just called Divorce, where you have to watch the divorce cutscene.
This game getting a little heavy, right? Like, I mean...
Yeah.
It's not just me, right?
Nope. I don't want to spoil it, but if you ever... I also recommend... there's a DS sequel to this game that only released in Japan called Chibi-Robo Clean Sweep. There's actually an English patch for it if you want to play it. That game's story is even more dark, and I would argue better. There's a casino, there's like, someone dies, yeah, we'll just say that. I'll just give you incorrect plot details. Incorrect plot details to avoid spoilers. But you also play that too, it's pretty sick. Unfortunately though, that game's speedrun is kind of rough because we found, as Kobe will probably tell you in chat, he found a skip for it. But then when you hit the skip, the game has a failsafe that forcibly like ejects you out from a cutscene trigger. It looks very funny, but it's very, very sad. And like I said, like, these games are very hard to break. Like, and for example, the wall clipping trick was actually kind of found in an interesting roundabout way. It was originally discovered by a speedrunner named Okiyama, And if you have been around in the Ocarina of Time community for a very long time, that name actually might ring a bell. It's the same person who did some OG stuff in Ocarina of Time back in the day. After he left, or kind of left that community a bit, he worked on Chibi-Robo in like 2012, 2013. And he found a way to get what he thought to get underneath the stair. And the reason why, like the stairs in the foyer, and we thought it was because that during a slide, you actually just become shorter or something, and that's what would cause you to clip through the stair. But it turns out he actually discovered wall clipping, and it took us about a year to realize that you could do it on any wall. Or, no, almost like 2 years to discover that you could do it on any wall in the game. This game is kind of what I would call a beautiful accident of a speedrun. It really shouldn't be as good of a speedrun as it is, but I don't take it for granted. This is such a fun game to show off. And I'm glad you all seem to be enjoying it, so that just makes my day. All right. Wait, I was supposed to talk to Dad. That is a slight blunder. Oops. I'm gonna need to take an extra recharge. That's a little spooky. I'm also going to take a cutscene, which is gonna lose me time in order to save some day-night. This is a little rough. Alright. So I was supposed to talk to this big blub, but I failed to do it because I'm on such autopilot. Oh, wait. Oh, I did talk to him! Wow, I actually suck. Okay. Wow, incredible. I should be fine. But it's not a huge deal if I miss a door in this cycle. This is probably one of the most time-lenient cycles in the entire run. But I should be fine. TM. I grabbed the 300 door, so I didn't forget that one.
I feel like casually this game must be very stressful with you just flashing red as your battery ticks down.
Oh yeah, it's really funny too when people watch this run for the first time when they see me chilling like at single-digit battery counts, and they're like, "Ah, you're gonna die!" No, I'm not. I could like literally move to the other side of this room with sliding, clip through a wall, and then activate a plug in the next room, maybe. Alright, so we had to go talk to Mom to get a letter. This is basically like her demands, I guess. I'm gonna just, instead of climbing back up, just clip through the wall. And luckily for us, the trigger for returning back to the foyer is still there, even when the door is closed. So we use that to our advantage to avoid the climb up. It has a very yeah, it's very convenient. But it has a very inconvenient property of putting this strange invisible wall/barrier around a part of the chain that you climb up in order to get through the slats, which is kind of silly. But it's a thing because this game is just full of things that happen. That's the best way I can describe it. So this is basically a cutscene where Mom says, "You all suck, you take me for granted." Basically how every mom feels in 2019 in America. How she's taken for granted, which honestly true. So this is a very crucial storyline trigger that we need to hit. What this does is it unlocks the Chibi radar in the shop, and we need the Chibi radar to go do the next part of the quest. So we can't do that until night though, so we're gonna use the rest of the cycle to grab some cash money, and then we'll be good to go. Now this is one of my favorite cycles just to watch, because this is just like a kind of a culmination of all the stuff you've been seeing over the course of the run. We're gonna get 3 doors that are all really, really far apart from each other on 1 battery charge. And it's really cool to watch. But I do need to take a recharge before I go in though. So I didn't have to take an extra recharge, which is good. I don't completely suck. Only partially.
So Kabazco has translated the letter for us. It says, "Dear dysfunctional family, Tao tracks mud in the house, Jenny thinks she's a frog, and the man of the house isn't man enough to get another job. You've pushed me to my edge. The only option I have left is divorce."
Big words. This game is just so melodramatic sometimes. I have like a conspiracy theory that this game is like Japan's way of parodying American culture. And if you read, I feel like there's a subtext for it with the way that this game is so inspired by like the 50s and 60s aesthetic, and like our need for like consumerism. And you kind of see that in Clean Sweep as well. Maybe I'm just reading into things too much, but that's my game theory for today. All right, so we're going up here to a place that probably not a lot of people remember seeing. There's we call this a Star 80 door. It's a 500 moolah door, so it's really really efficient from a time and moolah standpoint. This slide is also very tricky, so let me see if I can do that. Camera might change on me soon. So one of the tricky things with sliding in this game is you kind of have to react to changes in camera movement, because if the camera decides to turn on you, it can cut off your slide early, so you kind of have to react to what happens. Alright, now this is a little bit of a risky plug drop. Let me just hit it first try, just like that. And then there's an invisible door over here. And then this is what I was talking about after this door with the was one of the routing changes that was made recently. Where, okay, so I'm gonna get this guy. Again, pointing my cursor off screen so that I don't accidentally shoot behind Chibi-Robo, because that happens much more often than you would think. I think what happens is it tries to create like a spot on the wall that it wants to send things at, if you will. I don't know if that's the best way of explaining it. Alright, so now we're going to go grab another invisible door. You're normally intended to use the Chibi ladder to get this. But it turns out you can actually use this part used for the combat training minigame in the Free Ranger side quests in order to just hover over to here, and that allows us to get on here with battery to spare. So we just traversed like a giant swath of the foyer, all in one battery charge, and we're still on like the 100 battery. This one is just so dope. I love it.
It does seem like that battery expansion's doing work though. Yeah.
I am a little short though, so I'm gonna test these drawers to see if I can get some extra moolah. And then it looks like okay, that's not quite wrong. Game's trolling me. But I'll probably have to grab some extra moolah on the way to the next part here. But I know where to look for that, so that shouldn't be a big deal at all. So yeah, that is day 4, so we are in it to win it. I'm gonna take a moment to check my blood sugar, and I guess I can kind of talk about how I manage my blood sugar a little bit mid-run. So I have a thing called an insulin pump. That's the thing that I use to deliver synthesized insulin to my body so I can actually break down sugar and stuff. And most people check their blood sugar through like a finger stick type of deal where they take a little blood sample to figure out what their blood sugar is. You know, it makes kind of sense. I'm very blessed to have what's called a continuous glucose monitor, which gives me it's a thing that I have on my body that gives me an update on that every 5 minutes. So that has really enabled me over the course of time to be able to more effectively manage, because maybe in this game during the cutscenes, but you can't like give yourself a finger stick while you're doing a run. So that's been something that's been like really big for helping me be able to continue doing this thing that I love so much. So thank God for technology, you know. But I think it's also kind of impacted my mentality in some ways too, because sometimes you just you have to speedrun more for your own sake rather than commit to the grind culture that you kind of see in speedrunning sometimes. Because, you know, sometimes I'm just so fatigued from managing it all, and I don't say this for sympathy points, but sometimes I just get fatigued from doing this all the time. And so sometimes like I feel like it's more important just to enjoy the hobby in a lot of ways, and Chibi-Robo kind of forces you as a speed game to do that too, because you know you can't necessarily just grind runs, because there's not, you know, you just like it's a run that's long enough to where you don't want to reset, and a lot of the points where you would want to reset are mostly out of your control anyway, and there's leniency too, so it's not like it's a game that doesn't tilt you as much, I suppose, and that really kind of helped me to get more into just doing runs to do runs, because if you try to grind this game like super duper hardcore like I've done in the past, you'll just be miserable. Like you'll be absolutely miserable. And that kind of goes for any game really. But I find that taking like, oh, that's beautiful, excellent. All right, so I'm gonna get this coin real quick. Don't mind me. So I've kind of just adjusted my mentality over time, I suppose. I'm short moolah. How do I want to handle this? I know. Okay.
Well, that bingo experience coming into handy.
Yeah. Exactly. gotta go for the RNG first. You know how it is. Nope. Owned. I need exactly 150 more. How do I want to do this? Okay, I have a plan. I have a plan. Results may vary. So I'm gonna grab a 50 here, and then there is a 100 moolah door right before we enter the basement, which is our next destination. So that's gonna be my goal, and then I should have almost close to the amount I need.
Kabazko asks, were you supposed to buy a timer for this cycle?
I am, but I'm gonna do that after the next part. I'm gonna use some of the money I get a little bit later. I guess I could buy that right now. Speaking of which, yeah, why don't I just do that right now for marathon safety? It was on the back of my radar, so don't pat yourself on the back too hard. So this timer upgrade is actually necessary because now we're at a point in the run where the cycles and sort of the cycle management doesn't really matter anymore. And in fact, we normally don't have all the time that we would need to do on this cycle within 5 minutes. So we just buy the 15-minute timer for the rest of the run. And we should be finishing the run on this cycle, believe it or not. All right, I'm going to grab some 10s over here. That should allow me to get some extras. I'm probably going to test drawers and foyer.
So that upgraded it so that day cycles aren't 5 minutes, they're 15 minutes now?
Correct.
Wow. You paid money for the sun to move more slowly.
Yeah. I paid money to break the laws of astronomy, essentially. It's Japan. It's Nintendo, so I guess it gets a pass.
Yeah, it's not like the first time that they've changed the movement of the heavenly bodies for a Nintendo game.
Yeah, so I guess right now I'll kind of mention that if any of you folks have any questions about my Type 1 and how I kind of handle speedrunning with my Type 1 and stuff like that, or if you have any just questions for me in general, feel free to ask.
Yeah, I'll relay any questions you've got.
Yeah, just keep in mind a couple of things. First of all, I am not a doctor. I cannot give medical advice. That should just be a general CYA. But at the same time, I'm also only speaking from experience. So while I may be able to give you some more general information about the disorder, if you have any questions specific to my experiences, I think that'll be a little more maybe interesting, or you might be able to get more out of it. But don't feel pressured either way. I'm just saying that because I'm open to talking about it, and if anyone just has a question or wants to clear up a misconception, I'm more than happy to, because this whole event's about awareness, you know. All right, so grabbing these extra 10s because so what we're gonna do, and this may be to the dismay of some, we're gonna play a little bit of a game with our friend Pico here. So most people didn't do this casually, and thank God they didn't. But we absolutely need to safety save here. Because we are going to play a gambling minigame with Pico to get the rest of the money we made. Now, the way it works is it's a 50-50 double or nothing type of thing where you pay in however much you want, and then from there, it's a 50-50 whether or not you win or lose. If you win, you get double your money. If you lose, sorry. So we have to do this once because, like I said, we need literally 10K moolah just for the battery alone. And then on top of that, we need an extra 3,000 to purchase a final upgrade for Chibi-Robo. So this is unfortunately a reset point for speedruns of the game, and on the world record, we don't even safety save at all.
I'm seeing a lot of left in the chat. People really want left.
Oh, are people already voting? That's great.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was gonna say, so we have a vote between whether to say left or right, which would be so left eye would be no, right eye would be yes. So it looks like a lot of people are voting no. You can use the emote vote yay and vote nay. And then we still got a little bit before we make the decision. But I have been feeling vote no rather recently. So it's your call, chat. Pick for me so I can blame it on you. That's the strategy.
Yeah, I'm still seeing more left than I am right.
Okay. It's also important to note, and no, the joke isn't lost on me, we need to have, at minimum, a little more than 6,900 moolah in order to have all the money that we need for the. Oh shoot! I entered the wrong. I'm sorry. I just betrayed chat. Shoot. Well, that means I'm gonna lose, right? Okay. So because I said yes, I'm pointing my cursor over this eye. If that eye opens, we win. This is gonna be like karmic retribution on another level if this fails. This eye right here. Come on. No whammies. Oh, I was right! Get wrecked, chat. First try Pico, baby. Alright, that's great.
Yeah, that seems like that would cost a lot of time if you get the wrong guess. I mean, there was a lot of time between your safety save and that. That would be potentially a run killer at a highest level of gameplay.
It is, and more so now than on the English route, because on the English route, this is another cycle, where the day-night cycle still matters, but because of the version-exclusive glitches, I don't want to dab, I want to die, hold on. Don't clip that. So where the run really starts to differ is the way that we acquire the leg. So the way the leg is located in a briefcase under the bed in the master bedroom, and the way you're intended to get it is you get the Chibi radar, you use that to summon some aliens and do some alien related stuff, which we will be doing. And then from there, what you have to do is visit them again. And you also at some point need to grab a dog bone. Yes, it's that convoluted. Now the dog bone is a bit of an issue because it doesn't spawn for many, many cycles. So normally, that's the hot rod. That's the thing. Okay, good. All right. So normally, the bone doesn't start appearing until very, very later on. So in the English route, what you have to do is you have to go talk to mom after you trigger the divorce cutscene and ask her to make pajamas for you. Now that costume lets you create time paradoxes and skip through cycles, and you would use that to advance time to skip cycles to get to the bone faster. Now, what we're going to be doing after we go show the aliens Giga-Robo is a trick called Leg Early, which allows us to get the leg without the bone. Now, the bone is used to be able to reveal the password on the case in order to be able to open it. But due to a version-exclusive glitch that was originally found by a runner named Glitch, PhD, and then confirmed to not crash on the Wii version of the game, because of course it crashes on the GameCube version. It's a hairball. It is going to allow us to skip the bone and save like a boatload of time, but I don't want to reveal exactly how we're going to do that because it's a really sick skip. All right, so we're going to be, I lied to you, we're actually picking up trash. We have to reveal this crop circle, and we can only do that by picking up the trash, unfortunately. So we have to pick up some weeds. You hate to see it. All right, and there we go. This is the main purpose of getting the radar, is just to summon the aliens. That's the only reason it's required for the run. If we didn't have to get the radars from, it would be a lot faster, but...
So what is it the radar is necessary for? I'm sorry if I missed it.
It cues the aliens to appear in their UFO. That's what cues it.
Okay.
Now, it is important to keep in mind that we do need to visit the aliens again and do some, time travel, where you would normally deliver the bone anyway. But this still saves a lot of time, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So this cutscene is kind of annoying, because you're basically told, oh, okay, these aliens speak so soft that you cannot hear them. So we're going to force you to run all the way over to the Chibi house and run back so you can buy this upgrade, and then you run back and talk to the aliens. It's a little annoying. Casually, it's fine, but from a speedrun, it can be a little bit annoying. But there's not too much to talk about here, other than me picking a specific dialogue option to save, like, frames. So, yeah, if you want to plug anything, or if anyone's got questions.
Yeah, I mean, now's as good a time as any for me to mention Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your bits and subscriptions. So do consider subscribing in order to support future broadcasts like these. We're really happy to be able to produce this sort of content for Disability Month and going onward. So don't forget also, if you have Amazon Prime, you can link your Twitch account in order to subscribe for free. I want to mention as well that in continuation with Disability Month, we do have another show tomorrow. We'll be doing Mega Man X at 9 p.m. tomorrow. So, or 9 p.m. Eastern, I guess I should say the time zone. 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
That's gonna be super sick. That run is so good. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but are they? I assume they're doing 100%. Okay.
Yeah, 100% one-handed.
Oh my gosh, that's actually wow. That's super. What? Okay. So let me explain what just happened there.
Wow.
Because that was not intentional.
A free clip.
Yeah. So you don't actually have to pause buffer the forward input. It's just very difficult to do it without a pause buffer. So in a task setting, you wouldn't do any pause buffers because opening the equip menu slows the in-game timer, which matters in the task for frames and stuff. But I'm accidentally really good, but also really bad at the same time. So of course that happens. So I apologize for laughing like a hyena, but
You're doing all the impressive things at all the wrong times.
Exactly. Also, am I short moolah? Let's double check. This might be an issue. I might be short by like 10 or 20 moolah. This is one of those games where you get almost exactly the amount of resources that you need. It's a very tightly knit route, so I might be barely off by like 15 moolah or something like that. I'm gonna regret buying the 15 timer over the 10, but marathon sick beat. Yup, I am literally 15 off. Well, this is becoming a slight clown fiesta, but it's okay. I know where to get extra money.
I think this has been ultimately a very impressive run, despite the little mistakes.
Yeah, the little mistakes that add up to slightly less insignificant mistakes. It's all good. It's all good. We're having fun. That's what this is all about, you know? It's about the people.
I think everyone's still incredibly entertained.
Glad y'all are enjoying it. Like I said, if y'all have any questions about this kind of stuff, feel free to ask. Ask away.
That coin on that table just keeps reappearing, and I imagine like the dad is saying money down there, and every day it disappears, and he's like, well, I'm just gonna put one more coin, just to see.
Alright, so now we have enough money. This is for the alien ear chip. This allows us to convene with the aliens. That's all it does. And then we're gonna blow the rest of our 10 grand on paying our electric bill. We don't have to pay for our own battery, but we have to pay for other people's battery. It's a reach. I don't know game, but you know what? It's a thing. Alright, so a small thing, but it actually kind of matters. We can only put up to 9,000 watts in this thing at a time, and I'm actually going to be very specifically doing 9,000 and then 1,000. Because when you, for whatever, oh, I put in 0. That's not exactly what you want to do. But if you do, for whatever reason, you get less text boxes if you put 9K in and then 1K. I don't know why. It's a thing.
Does it like celebrate putting 10K in or something like that? Like
yeah, and I think that skips a text box or two. It's really dumb. Shout out to Single Skip for finding that.
I can totally see how a skip like that would be found really organically. Like, whoops, I put in too little. Let me put it in again. Wow, that was fast.
Yeah. Wait a minute. It was more apparent from the days of running English because we would actually be able to read the text boxes and understand what they were saying. It's just kind of one of those types of things. So let me just kind of lay out the next sequence of events because it's real chill real quick, and then I kind of want to plug something. So the next sequence of events, I'm gonna summon the aliens down, and then the story of the game is that the aliens crash landed and Giga-Robo saved them. So they offered Giga-Robo some wishes. So one of the wishes was to make all of the toys become sentient. And then the other wish was to give himself infinite battery so that he wouldn't make the Sandersons go broke. But they apparently the aliens work on magic orbs of wish making. I don't understand. So they had to go back home and get another one. So they're coming back here to fulfill their promise. But they can't because Giga-Robo's deceased. So we're gonna go bring them over there so we can explain to them what exactly happened to Giga-Robo. So that's gonna be the premise of the next couple of minutes. During this next part, I'd actually like to plug the Chibi-Robo community Discord. So a lot of y'all are actually in chat right now because I posted in the announcements thing. But Chibi-Robo has a really awesome fan community. Our Discord is set up where it's a combination of people from the Chibi-Robo subreddit, artists, people from just the general Chibi-Robo community, and the speedrun community. It was actually kind of cool how it worked out because we had one of the moderators of the sub originally hang out in the speedrun Discord, which it was originally because he found it interesting. It was like, hey, can I start inviting people here from the subreddit? And then it just kind of organically evolved into this really awesome fan community. And every now and then we've got community events we do together. We've actually got a bunch of people making a fan game for mobile, which is really freaking cool. We also organize all of our speedrunning stuff through there, and it's just a really good community. Even if you're not interested in that's not a Chibi radar. That's also not a Chibi radar. Even if you're not interested in learning the speedrun per se, it's a really great, inclusive, and welcoming community. It's very chill, a lot of awesome people. So yeah, if you're interested and are looking for the link, if you go to the speedrun.com page, it's linked there. It's speedrun.com/cr. If someone will probably post it in chat, the invite link, which is totally okay. But we would love to have you join us, especially if you're interested in learning the run. All the runners hang out there, so that's a really good resource for learning to pick up this run or learning to pick up bingo. So yeah, that's my self plug. So now we're gonna go tell the aliens that we're going down to the basement here. But we're actually going to do another. I generally call them trauma warps because you're using the trauma suit to warp. So I'm just using the term trauma warp here. So we're doing a very specific trauma warp here. Normally what happens casually is when you try to lead the aliens away, our good friend Drake Redcrest tries to save the day by dispelling the aliens. But it turns out is if you use the trauma suit, you can just warp straight past the cutscene trigger, and it allows you to skip that cutscene, which saves somewhere in the ballpark of, I want to say 2-3 minutes. It saves less on Japanese because of the text, but this is one of the biggest reasons why we get the trauma suit, in addition to Night 3. Also, I haven't nearly been annoying people enough with the cursor. I apologize that you have not been adequately annoyed.
Kabazco asks, what are the aliens named?
They are Io, Little Bang, Gamma, and then I forget the fourth one. Also, why are you asking me this? You literally know it. Little Bang is my favorite though, and he's the only one who matters.
So what is the all stickers category?
Okay, so all stickers is our version of 100%. So most side quests in the game, when you complete them, will give you a sticker. So if you look in this pink marker, there's a bunch of stickers right here. Those are given to you as like signs of completion of the game's different quests. Each character, generally speaking, has a sticker or two associated with them. Every character, I believe, every major character has a sticker associated with them. And so the goal of the all stickers run is to fill up the sticker page as fast as possible. If you look at the leaderboard, there's not actually a run there right now. But there
seem like there's any runs on the leaderboard.
But there is. The world record is something in the 6-hour range by Single Scoop. He just forgot to submit his run to the leaderboard.
Of course.
So it's uploaded to YouTube. So that's the best place to look. I believe he also has it highlighted on Twitch too. If you check out his Twitch page. Although his YouTube channel isn't Single Scoop, his YouTube channel I think is just Glitch with a couple of numbers. So I would just look up for Chibi-Robo All Sticker Speedrun. That would be your best bet here. I'd also like to point out that whenever you point your cursor over things, it makes this really obnoxious sound effect. And don't worry, it annoys me too. I'm sure that it's been brought up more than once.
But once you know you can do it, you can't not do it.
Exactly, I have to annoy the viewers. It's for the people.
It's for the fans.
Yeah, for the people. I'm the people's champ. What can I say? I don't know what lies Grand Cougar will tell you. I'm the real people's champ.
This is the rivalry that the world has been waiting for.
Yeah, a super popular Mario speedrunner versus the guy she doesn't want you to know about.
Well, I've never seen him run Chibi-Robo, so...
That is true. I don't think he's ever heard of Chibi-Robo, so... But, yeah. Big news. I'm just trying to keep myself together. But yeah, the run, other than like major, like a couple of minor things, like the run has been going really well so far. So, and again, thank you everyone for tuning in. It means a lot to us in our community because we're a small but tight knit group, and it really means a lot to us when we get the chances to do things like this. So, thank you.
I think you've made a lot of fans today. If not of you, at least of Chibi-Robo.
Yay! That's more important to me, because you need to play this game at some point in your life. That's directed at everyone who is listening to the sound of my voice. Just don't play Ziplash, that game sucks. It's like a 4-hour-long run for a 2D platform run. It's cursed. Has more grinding than this game. It's actually absurd. Shout out to Single Scoop for suffering through it for the good of the people. You know what, now that I think about it, Single Scoop might actually be the people's champ. Certainly an unsung hero. But yeah, okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go upstairs and grab the battery. So I've been alluding to this throughout the whole run, but now we're gonna set up for Leg Early, which is the really big trick that is only available to be done on this version. So in theory, you can do it on GameCube discs, however, it crashes in a very spectacular fashion on GameCube discs for reasons that we are not aware of. It's one of those crashes where it's like the like the really long beat sound, and it's something that should be experienced every now and then. But it's not exactly fast to crash your game and have to like unplug your Wii or GameCube. But for whatever reason, it doesn't crash on the Wii version. So essentially, it's going to be an application of the drawer glitch that you probably don't remember, but we showed it off at cycle 2 of day 2. So it was a while ago, and it was a small thing for battery management. So just for a refresher, the way it works is I can displace a pullable object by turning the camera, recentering the camera while at a skewed camera angle. And that allows me to pull it off the rails of where the game normally snaps the object to. And what this is going to allow me to do is, after a short period of time after letting go, the briefcase will, if I position it correctly, will snap back to its place when it's fully extended and you can enter the password. So after a safety save here, because if I mess this up, that's really, really bad. After a quick safety save here, I'm going to do the drawer glitch and then run where it's going to snap to, and then it will clip me inside of the drawer. Or sorry, well, the running joke is that everything is a drawer in this game that can be pulled, including a toy hot rod. But that is besides the point. So I'm gonna try to focus here because this is a little bit precise, and I need to save. Okay, we got the save. First try. Alright. So this one's much easier than the one I was doing earlier, but it's still kind of scary. And like I said, if I mess this up, it's kind of fatal for the run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I go over and boom, we got it. Okay, good. Alright, so I use an audio cue by the amount of times I hear like the, not like the dust cloud sound, but like the sound of like air movement. I hear that 7 times and then I let go and I use that as an audio cue to move. If you go any further than that, you risk the chance of not being able to get there in time. But that's like early. The game would have crashed by now. And there's some very strange side effects that you can see. Mr. Sanderson is just gone. You're gonna see Mrs. Sanderson get picked up by an invisible husband, sort of kind of ex-husband. That was a really good like early look. And also there's spiders hanging from there that are invisible too. All right. So this is the part of the game where we get major plot details. So spoiler warning for people who want to experience this game casually. Although I will place more of a type of a spoiler warning on people who want to play that DS game. But yeah, go ahead.
With the aliens coming down, seeing her get pulled around by an invisible force, I would not have thought anything was wrong.
That is true, but the aliens are like 4 inches tall.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
They're very small. They're adorable small friends. All right, so this is another one of those weird things where a consequence of a trick that we did much earlier in the run comes to bite us in the neck later. So because we didn't blast open the entrance to the backyard with the sticker on it, we actually have to click through right here, and I got it first try, this is actually harder than when we have to do it normal because you're kind of doing it blind. But I'm just really good at the game, so I don't really care. That's also a bit faster too because it's less out of the way. So it saves time all around to do that. It's not just me trying to be cool. Which I don't really need to be because I already am cool, but that's besides the point. Except when I'm not. Alright, so we're gonna summon the aliens to do some time travel. Now there's gonna be something really interesting happens where Tao appears here, even though there's no physical way for him to get into the backyard because 1, he's in the living room, and 2, the doors are shut. So it is most likely that he faced through the glass, which means that Tao is some kind of witch that is transmogrified into a dog. That is my headcanon. I said I was done with the game theories, but there's another one for y'all. Minor plot hole there. But our good friend Ganymede is gonna... That was the 4th thing, Ganymede. And the other one is Titan or Titan. No, it's Titan. There we go.
So it's the names of Jupiter's moons.
Yeah. Is Little Bang a moon on Jupiter?
No, but Io, Ganymede, and Titan are.
Yeah. Little Bang is just a good boy, though. He's an absolute unit. Alright, so this next sequence is kind of played as per casual for the most part. These guys are all sick, because, and I quote, because they had too much junk food. So they all have a high fever from that, which, well, I would say makes no sense, but they're aliens, so... Artistic license, I guess? I don't know. But from here, we're just going to... I don't know why they need a blaster to open up their beds, but we have to open up their beds with a blaster. Also, my plug is literally just sitting there at the top of the room. It's one minor thing that, like, I can understand why the devs weren't able to work around that, but it just... It irks me. It bothers me. But essentially what we're doing now is we need to go pick up from the past an item called the circuit schematic. Because our blaster in its current state cannot kill the advanced spider life robots that have appeared from the mystical suit briefcase. And Dad lost the circuit schematic, so of course we have to go back in time to grab it. So this is just kind of a long chain of events in order to get us back in time. We're going to be doing, the one significant thing you'll be seeing me do here at the start, after saving all these guys, is a color puzzle, where it's essentially a timing minigame where you have to align different color light panels on the floor. But I'm going for like a specific strat, where as long as I time it the same way every time, I can just blaze through the puzzle on the fastest cycle. It's one of those things where if you're on a really good run, it's really easy to choke, because you're just like kind of shook. Okay, my PB, I didn't choke super hard. I choked like one cycle of it, but this is also the point where these robots just kind of shower us with happiness. Which doesn't really matter too much because the threshold between the battery upgrade we can't really stop from getting and the one above it is super duper high. So there's not too much we need to do in terms of happy point management or anything like that. Yeah. Robots are just gonna stroke my ego for just shooting at cubes. It's a great game. People talk about power fantasies in video games, but this is the power fantasy I crave. Let's be real here. Also, this UFO text is like one of the only sets of English characters in the entire game. I don't know why. I'm surprised that they don't have some sort of word for it in Japanese or something. I already have my blaster out. Alright. So for this first one, I'm just gonna mash, and then I should get it. Because it always starts straight on the red. Just gonna focus here because... Oh, I got it. Cool. Alright. So then I have to hop off and then do the other 3. Oh, I was too slow. It's okay. Too slow. Too fast. Gosh dang it, now I'm choking. There we go. Okay. I think my timing was messed up because I thought I was doing the off cycle. Game just ate my A input. That doesn't happen very often. First it tried to get me with spy doors, and now it's trying to get me with dropped inputs. Although it's a Wii remote and nunchuck, so I'm not surprised. There we go. That's what it's supposed to look like if you do it correctly. But I'm mildly getting owned by the game right now, so par for the course. Alright, so now this disco ball is going to magically turn into a time machine. Not the strangest time machine I've ever seen. I mean, the Rabbids games have, like, what, a washing machine? Not completely out of the ballpark. This Lotus thing. And we're gonna go off to Sepia Land. That's not a blaster. There we go. I didn't miss the shot! Great. The game wasn't mean. Yeah, this is a rather chill and kind of casual part of the run, so I'm just trying to make up words and pretend like I'm talking coherently. So, I don't know if you have anything you want to add, author, if anyone's got any questions, or...
Yeah, if there's any questions, we'll relay them.
Okay, cool.
People are right now just enjoying the show.
Enjoying the in-flight movie. Technically, it is an in-flight movie, because we're in an UFO, which is hovering in the air. Therefore... Okay, I will move on.
I think it's obvious to anyone watching that this is in the past because of the sepia tones.
Exactly. It's only logical. Except all of the present time things are in normal tones because that makes sense. Or maybe this is just an astral projection of the past. Could be. There's also, I'd like to mention, from a casual standpoint, there's a really cool puzzle that they have in this game for one of the optional stickers, where you have to grow a flower for legendary nectar, I believe, that takes like several years in order to grow to maturity. So what they have you do is go into the past, plant the flower, and then come back to the present, and then the flower is grown for you to be able to use. Probably one of my favorite things the game does. But this is the circuit schematic. I guess you can just pick it up through this thing. Don't know if that's intentional or not. But now what we're going to do is actually, unfortunately for our boy Chibi-Robo, we need to die again. It's okay, it's for speed. The reason why we're doing this is because you can't actually use the trauma suit when you're in the past because the game really doesn't want you to create a time paradox. But it turns out that you can create an even harder time paradox by killing yourself. And then that just kind of sorts everything out. And lets us work. Saves a boatload of time. Like 4 minutes, maybe.
Problem solved.
Yeah. Just solve a time paradox by introducing an even greater time paradox. It's like using rejects to solve a programming problem. What's the saying? Like, every time you use rejects to solve a problem, you have 2 problems or something like that. Is that the same? I'm trying to make a joke here, but I forget.
So what's the big deal with Ziplash? What makes it so bad?
There's just there's not a lot of tech to it, and then on top of that, in the 90% run, you have to grind for money, which is really unbecoming of a 2D platformer. And it's just a 4-hour run. It's got some interesting movement stuff in places, but it's
a 2D
long.
platformer?
Yes.
Hmm.
That requires money grinding. It's just also it's got what I would call nuts and bolts syndrome, where it's not necessarily a bad game, but people dislike it a lot more because of the franchise it's associated with.
That makes sense.
Because we really just want another mainline Chibi-Robo game, you know, or like a remake, or just anything. And we haven't really had that in years at this point. All right, so now we're just going to deliver off the circuit schematic to our boy, Mr. Sanderson. Not too much going on here. Afterwards, we're going through like a small sequence where we have to ward off some enemies while we're waiting for Mr. Sanderson to come down with his soldering kit. Because here's the spoilers for you. Spoiler warning. Okay, so the spoiler is that this guy actually hasn't been a lazy layabout. He actually ethically quit his job because he was dissatisfied with the ethics of the company of Citrosoft, which are the people who not only made Chibi-Robo, they Giga-Robo, but also the Spiders. And they made the Spiders to be evil, and cartoonishly so. So, yeah, so Mr. Sanderson actually knows how to solve the situation. It's just, I don't know, maybe there was some sort of like thing where Citrosoft spread his word around. Like, hey, this guy left, don't hire him. I don't know. Bit of a plot hole there.
Well, he seems nice enough to me.
Yeah. He does his best. That's the way I would put it.
Is this really what Japan thinks American families are like?
I sure hope not.
The daughter thinks she's a frog. That's the way all children are in America.
Oh, yeah.
They just think they're frogs.
Some people are frogs, some people think that the goose from Untitled Goose Game. That's just how it be. Alright, so this sequence is kind of an auto-scroller. We're essentially, like I said, waiting for Mr. Sanderson to get the soldering kit. But we might as well just goof around while we're waiting. So I'm just going to clip out of the arena, just like that. And now they can't harm me at all. So yeah, we can just walk around in here. You can actually go to the basement if you want. You have to come through another wall, but I'm not going to do that because it would reset this auto-scroller. You could talk to Telly if you wanted to. I don't feel like doing that. There's also a free ranger somewhere. Yeah, there he is. Poor guy. You hate to see it. Might as well goof around while we're waiting. Go, go, go! The other English lines of text that I forgot to mention because I didn't know they existed. Sweet! Alright, now this is probably one of my more favorite cutscenes. This actually led to the image that we use on the profile image that we use for the Chibi-Robo Discord of Chibi just in the soldering kit. Like an absolute good lad. Shoutouts to everyone who's here from the Discord, by the way. I kind of pinged y'all last notice, but I really appreciate y'all making it. It really means a lot to us. Okay, let me explain, because we're in cutscene mode, let me explain what that beeping is. So, like I mentioned earlier, I have a sensor on me that gives me updates on my blood sugar every 5 minutes. And whenever you hear a beep like that, that's my phone telling me I'm going to die. No, I'm just kidding. But that just means my blood sugar is running a bit high. That makes sense because typically, especially when I get a good running, I tend to get a bit more anxious. And when I get more anxious, in response to anxiety, your body, the way the pancreas works is it regulates your blood sugar levels by releasing two chemicals. There's the insulin hormone, and then there's, I think it's called glucagon, that if your blood sugar goes low, it raises it back up. Well, if the body expects that you're going to be under stress, it will actually secrete more of the glucagon in order to give you more energy to handle whatever stressor's coming your way. So that makes things a little bit difficult when you don't have the insulin to self-correct, if that makes any sense. So that's you might hear some more beeping. I'm probably gonna give myself another thing of insulin right now. So yeah, there's your diabetes fact number something. I don't know. Go like a unit and a half. There we go. Beep beep. Sip on some water. Sure, everybody, make sure you stay hydrated.
This seems like a good game, giving you nice breaks for stuff like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is like one of the major, like besides the fact it's like my favorite game of all time, no question. It allows me to pursue this hobby in a way that is safe for my body, because as like normally I can't do runs that really go past 2 hours without some kind of break in it. So it kind of affects the way I pick my speed game. So I tend to pick either short games or like mid-length runs with a little bit of breaks, or longer runs with significant breaks. Most infamously, I used that cutscene in Night 1 with the slideshow presentation to make a restroom break, which has become more difficult ever since I started running the Wii version. Okay, foyer spiders. This is rather tricky. So I'm going for charge shots in order to kill them in one hit. Now, they don't spawn in until you get close enough, and they have iframes until they land on the ground and turn around. Where are you? Okay, thank you. Die. Now, this first part is rather simple. I'm required to take a recharge here after this point. And then after this, I'm going to be trying to go for a specific setup where I have around 80 battery at the end of the fight, and if I do this correctly, it will allow me to go into the next, into the final boss fight without having to take a recharge. Alright, so I am going to save here, just in case, marathon safety. It would be faster. So that first phase was rather good. This is the harder one, because of all the battery management that's actually going on mid-fight. So I'm going to kind of focus here. Not good. I probably screwed up the cycle. I almost certainly screwed up the cycle. Wow, this is not good. Alright, let's try not to die. Okay, we're alive. Cool. Alright, so unfortunately I didn't get the swag strat, but that is totally okay. I'm gonna go recharge. Having to recharge not only will cost me some time, but it will also make the fight slower for a rather strange reason. That we'll get into later. But yeah, we're almost at the end of the run, everybody. Kind of amazing. You know, this run's really difficult, so I'm really kind of... Last time I attempted to run this at a marathon, I actually ended up failing the run because of some route issues that I think it was because of the death that caused me to make the run unable to finish. So it's... And obviously I was not as good of a runner back then. But even then, it just feels really good to be able to show you all what this game is really about. It was something I was really worried about, something bad going wrong that I was really prepared for. But everything's going like according to plan, which is great. But now we're heading into the final boss fight, which is Queen Spider, or the mother of all spiders. And she has taken our leg, and we needed to defeat this boss to finish the game. Now, we don't call time on the killing of the final boss because that's not what triggers the credits. You could theoretically, after defeating this boss, go around and do a whole bunch of stuff before triggering the end credits if you really want to. So that's why we consider our timing to be focused around Giga-Robo rather than this boss fight. All right. So now let me set up this boss fight. So the fight is like in a ring around the boss, and so I'm going to be using charge shots in order to try to I'm trying to fit 2 charge shots between each attack. Her main attack is like this suction effect, which will deal some damage. I may actually intentionally take a suction hit for phase 2, which I'll explain. But the idea is I'm just going to try to squeeze in double shots. And it's very important, too, that I hold charge before the fight starts. Because if you can't... In order to get a charge shot to come out, for whatever reason, you have to take a shot and then charge up. That's just a quirk of the game in the way it's built. So, we're going right into the fight right now. This is rather tricky to get going, so I'm just going to try to focus and make sure I can get the best fight possible for y'all. It's going to be not as fast because of my battery count, but that will make sense until phase 2. Got the roar effects, but without the roar sound. Also, just casually a fridge on its head. Very intimidating. That's okay. Here's my intentional hit. Alright, so I got double hits. You're gonna see, I shoot relatively close to the boss so I can get away as soon as I can. Ooh, that might be damage. Oh, nice! I got him. Okay. That was very close. I was just a tad too close, and I could have taken some serious damage, and that would have been very risky. Okay, so now, sorry. Hold on a second.
Oh, I just said well done.
Oh, thank you. So Phase 2 is very interestingly programmed. The first hit that you deal to it when you're in critical health will kill the boss. That's the way it's programmed. So ideally, you want to enter that fight with as little battery as the game will allow you to, in order to put yourself directly into critical range, so that you can one-shot the boss in Phase 2. So that's what I was trying to go for. But that's okay. I still managed to kill the boss rather quickly, with enough battery to skip a recharge at the end of the run. So this cutscene is another example of where Japanese really saves just a boatload of time. But yeah, that's Queen Spider. That fight actually went really well. That fight is a lot harder than it looks. It is very difficult to get those shots in quickly and aim them. The hitbox isn't super big on Queen Spider, so it takes a lot of practice to get that down. So if you ever end up running this game, I highly recommend making a save file before that fight, just to improve your consistency at the shots there. It's something that often gets neglected because you're often spending a lot of time practicing day 2 or night 2, or like maybe, I don't know, like night or day 4 if you're playing on English. Day 4 on English is one of the most insane things you'll ever see with the current route, although there's a really cursed route that may happen one day for English route called Spoonless, which would turn the bone item that you get into another 50-50. But let's hope we never enter into that timeline where that's necessary. It's the boneless route. There, I said it. Alright, so we're gonna get showered with happiness, and then the run is almost over. So, like I said, we have all of our requirements for fixing up Chibi-Robo. We got the battery done, we got the leg, and now all we gotta do is just input the password and we're good to go. We also got the Spider sticker as well. So just for you to continue the explanation, you do get a couple of stickers for doing main story type of stuff. Do you want to add something? Or...
No. I think that's great.
I heard an exhalation of breath.
No.
It's like, Sai, is he really talking still? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I have never been able to commentate 2 hours straight on a single game. You've been a champ.
Well, speaking of commentary, let's add some more. So I very specifically go through the kitchen to get to the basement, because there's a very long cutscene that plays if you try to go through the living room, where there's like a news report. That's really, really bad to watch, and it loses a boatload of time. I actually, when I first started running this game, actually lost a run to that, and it cost me like 3 minutes. No, that might have been my first run. My first run was like a 3 minutes and 10 seconds run. Obviously, that was like a relic of the times with the strategies that we had back then. I think that used the laddered clip method of skipping the mud. It was a very interesting period of time. So one more plug drop. This plug drop actually kind of matters for time save and stuff. And then we're going to see our boy Plankbeard one more time, because of course he just has to butt in one last time. Spam noise on the loading screen one last time. I really I really underperformed with annoying people with the loading screen sounds. I'm so sorry that I ruined the run for you, everyone. Oh, I just died. That is totally okay. I'm just gonna lose like a minute. I was trying to do the plug drop there. Can I get a reference for how we're doing on time, just to make sure?
Yeah, we're right about at the estimate. You're perfectly fine. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay, cool. Whoops. Don't worry about it. I just threw for content, right?
Yeah, we're just padding it out.
Patting it out.
Y'all are gonna be sad when Chibi-Robo is over. We want to make sure you can really enjoy it.
Oh, we got the oh gosh, we got the upgrade too. That's this is just salt in the wound. Oh, you hate to see it. I tried to be cool, and this is what I get. I accidentally did a pivot off of the edge, and that's what caused me to fall to my death. I went too hard in the paint. All right, let's try this again. Let's try this again. And this time I have battery, so if I fall, I actually won't die. I gotta hit the plug drop though, because last minute swag.
It is an interesting mechanic to have combined sort of your charge power with your health as just one shared value.
And it's really interesting too, because in the sequels they actually kind of build off of that, where your battery actually draws from the house. So you actually have to like throw things out in order to increase the amount of like electricity that your house or whatever has. So you have to manage your battery in those games on a micro and a macro scale. That makes the park patrol run really, really interesting because you have to manage getting your battery handled and stuff like that, which is done for the happy points and stuff. That run's really cool, but it's also really long, so I don't blame for anyone who doesn't choose to watch it. But that run is on YouTube if you have 5.5 hours to kill. But yeah, let's actually get this plug drop this time, and then... Yeah, it's all good, though. Makes for a good highlight, I guess. Okay, we'll do it from here. Screw it. I'm done. I'm gonna call a mulligan on that one, blame my blood sugar. You see, that's the ultimate thing about having, like, the type 1, is whenever I'm doing bad, I can just blame it on my diabetes, and then that absolves me of all struggle. Like, it actually sounds like complete BS, but it like actually works on like an internal level. Now, for other people judging me silently from the Twitch chat, no, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna cut it at all. But for me, I only care about me. I'm a selfish person. All right, so the password is 200667. Time ends as soon as I hit the last number. So why don't we get ready on time?
I'm ready for you.
All right. Okay, and time. All right. Woo! That's Chibi-Robo 90%, everybody. Do I dare ask what my final time was?
It was 2:20.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
You weren't considerably over your estimate at all.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad. The game. That was mostly the game's fault, more than anything. But yeah, that's Chibi-Robo 90%. I don't have much to say other than a couple of shoutouts. Like I mentioned earlier, shoutouts to Glitch, Kabazco, and Single Scoop for their contributions to the run. I'd like to make a huge shout out as well for Xnose, who created the like a beginner route and tutorial for people to learn the game. It also has input display for anyone who's trying to pick up like the wall clipping and the slides and stuff like that. So that's a very good resource that we have. Also, shout outs Black Chaos and Sonic Crazy, Viserion, other runners. Yeah, shout outs to our Discord community. You all are awesome. We really do take you all for granted. It's really rare that we have such a community support for a speedrunning scene in the way that you guys provide for us. So thank you so much from the bottom of all of our hearts. I'd also like to extend a shout out to Speedruns Rochester, who are probably watching this run at meeting right now. I love you all so much. You all are the best. But yeah, that is the end of this run. Coming up next, we're going to actually take a bit of a break because if I don't set up now, I think I'm going to break a disc. We're going to be showing off Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. And if you like fast-speed platformers, you do not want to miss this run. This run is so hype.
So we're just going to take a few minutes break, run an ad, come back, and we'll do Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions.
Yeah, all right. See you in a little bit, folks.
Welcome back, everybody, to GDQ Hotfix. If you've been sitting here for the past few hours, you just watched an awesome Chibi-Robo run, but we're not done with the show just yet. We still have Jaxler here. We're going to move on to Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions in just a moment. I do want to remind you that if you want to be involved with this programming, October is Disability Month, and we are still looking for runs. So if you'd like to submit something, type !Disability Month in the chat, and you can get access to that submission form. A few other things I do want to point out. Tomorrow, the AGDQ 2020 games list is going to be coming out, so get hype about that. In addition, GDQ registration is going to open on Monday, October 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want information about how to register and how the registration process takes place, go to gamesdonequick.com. In addition to that, as part of our Disability Month programming, we're trying to get as many shows each and every day, so we have something else for you tomorrow. We have a Mega Man X 100% one-handed speedrun happening at 9 p.m. tomorrow evening, so be sure to be here for that one. That's going to be really exciting to watch. So with that, Jaxler is back with us. How you doing, Jaxler?
I'm doing good. Chibi-Robo run was a lot of fun. Thank you everyone for tuning in for that. So now we got Shattered Dimensions. So this is like a step in a completely different direction. This is a 2D Metroidvania with Spider-Man powers. That's all you really need to know about this game.
Awesome. Well, I guess we're ready to kick it off when you count me in.
All right. So before we get started, let me just mention a couple of things. We're going to be playing on the time trial mode. Now, what time trial mode does is there's a bunch of these transition cutscenes between areas that get cut out during time trial mode. We're also playing on friendly combat difficulty just to be able to kill enemies faster. But without further ado, I just want to give a quick warning that I'm going to try to do my best to commentate. But this run has a very high APM to it, and it's just sometimes difficult to fill details in. So I'm going to try to do my best, but this should be a lot of fun. You're all in for a treat. So if we're ready to go on time,
Yep.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so at the start of the game, we have access to two major movement options, which are web zipping and web swinging. Now, the swinging, you could aim in any 8 directions, kind of like a Belmont whip, rather, and it will pull you towards any flat surface that you have that's within range. So you're going to see me start off the run by using these down-angled zips in order to do these dive kicks that allow me to build up a lot of speed. And then occasionally you'll also see me throw in a couple of different other angles just because, as per usual, the fastest way between two places is a straight line. You'll also see me throw these web swings in that are more typical of like a Spider-Man game. Those are really good at allowing you to conserve momentum over large areas or after starting up a dive kick. So here's Mysterio. This is like a tutorial fight. 2, 3, up, 1, 2, 3, dive kick, 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's so well choreographed.
Yeah, even though I literally beefed up the last part of the strat because I did a backwards hit. That's okay, that lasts like a second or two. So, the combat is like kind of a beat-em-up style, and like the gameplay-wise is like a 2D Metroidvania. So we're going to be going to like different parts of the map, killing a boss, getting a new upgrade, which allows us to go to the next area. Similar to that. But there's also these like combat upgrades that you can find throughout the map too. That defense one right there gives us the ability to roll, and I'll explain what that's for, but let me see if I hit this. Nice, I got the glitch. Okay, cool. That's like the one glitch in the run. If you buffer a jump and a zip at the same time out of that cutscene, you jump out of your coat and continue moving forward during the cutscene. It's very minor time save, but I love how goofy it looks. This game is actually surprisingly stable. We've only ever found one out of bounds, I believe, which is kind of incredible. This game is actually really well put together. But now we're, as you can see, playing as a different character. So, kind of an interesting twist this game. Oh, straight down, okay. Okay, 1 second. There we go, okay. So each of these characters has like a different unique ability or drawback to them. This character can find hidden things in the environment, but he can't climb up walls. He can attach to them or jump off them, but he can't climb them for whatever reason. So a lot of this movement that you're seeing me do is much harder than the standard characters because you don't have the ability to climb walls as a crutch in order to supplement your movement.
So this is like an alternate dimension character?
Yeah, this is Noir Spider-Man, so I don't quite understand the lore because, as I'll mention later, I was inspired to run this game by Mr. Shasta, who I saw run this game, and I'm like, this game looks dope, and then I proceeded to buy it and play it like 8 times. Alright, this is Boomerang. I'm gonna try to infinite combo him almost. Almost got the 1 cycle. All right, and so every time
satisfying.
it's so fluid, and it's really interesting too because in the 100% speedruns you get a lot more like new combat abilities. Like one of the ones we already picked up that you saw was the upward cut, which allows us to combo enemies into the air. You get some other stuff where you can like slam enemies down straight to the ground, some other new combo tools, an aerial rush attack. There's so much. The combat system in this game is really deep and almost kind of freeform in a sense, and so is the movement. It's one of those games that, like, it's very rare where there's many different, like, styles you could have with your movement and not lose, like, a ton of time. Like, there's multiple ways you can approach the same problem, for the most part. So we're going down here to grab a damage upgrade. Each of these we get gives us a 10% bonus on all our attack damage. So it just makes sense to grab that. It's mostly important for the Silver main boss fight, which will be coming up later. Okay, I was going for a little mini skip there where if I mash X, it will actually warp me back through the portal during the cutscene, and then I have movement during this cutscene, but it's very, very precise. I'm gonna go for another little precise thing here. Oh, I didn't get it. That's okay. So, this is 2099, aka Miguel, and his deal is that he cannot do web zips just yet, but he has the ability to like glide around and stuff. So unfortunately, this is a small respite from all the cool movement you've been seeing. But from the next boss, Vulture, we're actually going to be getting some an upgrade called Power Fusion, which allows us to transfer over the abilities from the different Spider-Man characters to each other. So it's kind of an interesting take that they do on the Metroidvania format. So for our purposes, we need to defeat Vulture so we can get access to the web swinging and stuff. And then there's another instance where getting the dodge roll allows us to move a little bit faster through the vents and stuff. So this is Vulture. He is the most RNG boss in the whole run. He can, we want him to stay in the air so we can hit him with some air combos before he does some dive bombs to come down to the ground. So let's see which way he goes. He can go left or right. Left is his pick. Wow, miss whiff. Swing and a miss. Okay. Wow, he wanted to attack me, but then he was just like, no. He's being so touch and go right now. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm starting a combo in this direction and then using the wall to allow me to turn the combo around in the opposite direction, which allows you to extend combos further than you're normally allowed to. There we go. Alright, that was a decent Vulture. And that gives us, like I said, the Power Fusion, and now we're going to go ahead and grab the web zipping ability. So we have to do a combat sequence before getting any new powers from these types of deals. You're going to start to see shield enemies now. They suck because they block your attacks. And normally you use the web zips a bit grip to remove the shields. But you can't do that if you don't have the web zip yet. So I have to be up close and personal and kind of just handle these guys. Oh, don't hit me. There we go. Okay, so that was decent. But now we can web zip, so now I get to go fast again. The movement in this game just generally tends to be very difficult because of how tightly knit the corridors all are. So you'll be seeing me do specific movements intentionally just to try to navigate this place. Alright, so something I grabbed on the way was another offense upgrade for back kick. It's not required, really. None of the upgrades are actually. But it's really, really useful because it allows us to, when we're in the corner, to quickly deal some damage and put something in the tumble, which is really good for safety, and it also just does a lot of damage too. Alright, I'm gonna go for a task strat once. I probably missed it. Yeah, I missed it. You can do a really cool strat there. We're able to do this like crazy web swing to be able to get a damage upgrade way earlier than intended, but we're just gonna go grab this one. I said this one. Don't explode. Ow. If you mess up that strat, it can get kind of dangerous. There we go. Eventually I will grab the damage upgrade. I swear it saves time. Alright. And we're going to zip up here, and now the game kind of goes into a cycle of go to a character's area, defeat a boss, and then go to the next character's area. So we're going to start that trend with Amazing Spider-Man. Thank you, Peter Parker. Jeez Louise. So we're going to go fight Tinker, and this is the part where I'm going to try to explain sort of a little more about the combat with the momentum mechanic. So it's that blue bar that you've seen in the bottom right corner that fills up as I deal damage to enemies without taking a hit. And as that goes up, my attacks come out faster and they deal more base damage. So as far as optimizing the game goes, it's really hard because you need to make sure you hit specific combos to build up that momentum fast. Like this. Boom. There we go. Okay, now we got electric shields. These guys are jerks because the shields do damage. Now, I'm gonna play it a little safe just because I want to keep my momentum clean. You're seeing me use the web swings instead of web zips to do damage, generally because it keeps you safer. Because for whatever reason, zipping into them makes you take damage, but swinging doesn't, because this game is very consistent with its mechanics.
How much of the movement in this game is improvised versus how much of it is just very strictly planned web swings?
Generally speaking, wow, oh my gosh, that's actually incredibly unlucky. Okay, sorry, I just had to point that out because that was rather spectacular. But when you're learning the game, it's improvised. But as you start to get more comfortable with the game, you find movements that you prefer or find interesting to you. Because in a lot of ways, there's multiple ways to do the same thing fast, so it really becomes a player preference thing in a lot of areas. Like if you look at my run and Mr. Shasta's run, there's some areas where we do movement quite differently, or we take slightly different paths. Can you break, please? Thank you. So generators suck. So right there, I did a really tricky positioning thing where if I zip into like a vent just right, I can actually stand up in the vent and jump, and that lets me just get up there a tiny bit faster. So this is Tinker. Unfortunately, I lost a ton of momentum, so this fight's probably going to be hecka slow. But the premise of the fight is he's going to summon a bunch of robots while I vibrate in the corner over here, and he's going to summon them, and I have to kill him quick. But I can kill him so quick that it becomes an auto-scroller in certain parts. Boom. Alright, so now I just get to chill here.
So it's more just waiting for him to spawn them in.
Yeah. And your face will be faster or slower depending on how much momentum you have going in. So this is like one of the most important parts momentum-wise. Ow. Says that as I take a big hit. Give me that. So these electric rifles actually explode when you chuck them at enemies. So I use that to my advantage to just deal a lot of damage. Alright, let's see here. Okay, so what happened right there, that's the dashing attack that the big brute robots can do. Very dangerous attack, because it has super armor. So what that means is that the enemy will take damage, but no knockback. And that attack is very strong, and ooh, that was close. Alright, I'm just gonna wait for him to spawn the laser. Okay. Oh, the single lasers. Oh, the single lasers. I'm sorry, I had to make the joke once.
No, it's fine. It's good. It's a good one.
I'm not nearly this funny when I'm practicing.
Don't tell people that.
Oh, yeah. I have to pretend like I actually know what I'm doing. That's right. Alright, so that's reinforced web. It allows us to break down these metal barriers you've been seeing. This one gives us a free damage upgrade. And then, if I do this right, the strat looks really dope. A little early. That's basically what the strat looks like, but without the ceiling crawl. Alright, so now we're doing things actually out of order. Normally this is like the last main boss that you fight. But we're gonna do a sequence break called Electro Early. This was found by a taster named a random game. Wow, first that was really clean. But a random game taster figured out that if you zip at the right spot, you can just get over the electrical barriers, which normally require an upgrade to progress past.
Very nice.
This has no utility outside of just making routing a lot better because you don't have to backtrack. But now here's probably one of the most brutal mob fights in the run because these enemies are a lot higher level than you're normally expected to fight. So I'm going to do some very specific setups to try to handle these guys. Oh, that's not good. Okay. Okay, he's dead. Cool. Now I got 3 brutes. Oh, that's a dash attack. That's the attack you don't want to see. It does 56 base. Yet they also do these get-up attacks too, which you can't control whether or not they do. So you have to react and roll to them. That's another key issue that makes getting the roll upgrade really important. Okay, so he... if they start up their attack soon enough, they can super armor through it, so you gotta be a little careful. How are you alive? Take that. Please die. Thank you. Alright, now we got Electro coming up. So just a good fall. Whee! Alright, there we go. Alright, so this is another one of those fights where I just kind of combo him into oblivion, and you get to see kind of the combat kind of get put to its test. So I'm just going to let this fight speak for itself.
While you're doing this run, I do want to mention for a moment, Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your bits and subscriptions. So please, if you're enjoying this programming and you want to see more of this programming in between the main GDQ events, please consider subscribing in order to support this programming. And if you have Amazon Prime, don't forget that you can link your Twitch account for a free subscription. It really helps out.
Ooh, I didn't want that throw. Okay. There we go. That was decent, Electro. I have to also mention that the dialogue in this game is absolutely amazing. All the puns, all the jokes. It's a very Spider-Man game, and that's what I love about it. So we got Spider Dash. And so, yeah, it functionally works the same. But they did something really cool with it, where once you get it going, you can actually run up walls and ceilings and stuff. Ooh, I got the jump. Interesting. All right, so I'm going to do it right here. I broke a concrete barrier earlier, so I could take the shortcut back. And then that's a strat I found. Yay me. One of the things I found. And then also, you're going to see me use like this a couple of times for some of the longer movement areas. It's just really fast movement. Free damage upgrade. Thank you. Sometimes Peter has some questionable interpretations of what you're trying to tell him to do. As with many speedruns. I tried to go for the really sexy up kick, but I missed it. Because it's very, very precise. Alright, this part of the run is really tough because there's a lot of these enemies, those guys who will dive bomb you, and then you've also got these like weird landmine type creatures, I guess, that will just ruin your life. Gonna wait for that bomb to explode. Ow. That was a very disrespectful game. Go away. Thank you. Alright, so technically speaking, you don't actually need the glide conduit. Oh, wow, that's very rare. Okay. There we go. Okay, still fast. Sorry, this fight's a little goofy. Even though these enemies are super underpowered for this point in the game.
The web swinging does seem like it makes for really nice crowd control in the combos.
Yeah, a lot of times you can just keep an enemy busy with it. That's really useful for a lot of the late game fights.
Yeah, earlier it seemed you were showing off that for safety's sake, it really just sort of harasses the enemy so they can't bother you.
Right. So technically we don't need the glide conduit, but it only saves 2 seconds in a task setting to skip it, so we get it RTA. Good. Okay, I didn't screw it up. Missing that is really kind of bad because there's a ton of enemies down in the pit that you didn't see me get hit by. Alright, this is Calypso. She has a hysterically weak health pool. So if I do this right, I should one-cycle her super easily. She does a similar thing to Tinker where she spawns enemies, but we can actually beat her up, which means the boss fight is incredibly more satisfying. Because Tinker just kind of sits there and you can't, like, teach him a lesson. He just exists as part of the background. But we're actually going to deal with Calypso the old-fashioned way. So at the beginning of the fight, I'm actually going to purposely do a web zip because she will teleport away from attacks until you have taken care of their these golems here. Oh, I took a hit. That's not good. Oh, I rolled just in time. I'm sick. All right, make her disappear and start some combos. She's gonna attack. I'm gonna roll behind. Start an aerial combo. Boom, dead.
Wow.
This game's combat is very broken.
What a boss.
And yes, the boss is that easy casually. Well, maybe not that easy, but still pretty easy casually. This backtracking segment is also really tough too. We're going to use our ability to reveal invisible or fake walls to grab a free damage upgrade. Wow, the game is being absolutely disrespectful right now. Alright, so now we got to backtrack. A lot of the movement going back through here is really tricky, harder than you would expect. There we go. Okay, so normally the game just kind of assumes that you're going to go from Noir to 2099, but it actually just turns out to be much faster to take Amazing's Portal to Noir for some reason. It just happens to work out that way. It also has the benefit of opening a shortcut up for us later that will make the movement from 2099 to the final boss much faster too.
This game feels like it would be very hard to navigate casually.
Well, you do have a map, but yeah, it can be a little confusing at times. But this game is so good. It's also like relatively cheap to pick up and not hard to find too. So if any of this looks interesting to you at all, please just buy this game. It's so good. It's honestly like one of my favorite Metroidvanias. And 100% of this game is even more fun because you just get more combat abilities and you just kind of mess everyone up. It's super fun. But this is Silvermane. He acts like a brute enemy, but he has a bit more super armor. So I'm going to be using a lot of web swings in order to put him into hit stun. You also have to do a really good job of reacting to his attacks in order to make sure you don't take damage, because losing the momentum here is a really big deal. Got him. Okay. So that was a pretty good fight. You can usually tell how good your fight was by how much dialogue Silvermane is able to get out. So he only got out a little bit, which is pretty average. Oh, almost got the cool strat. There we go. Okay. So now we've killed all the bosses. You might be asking if there's any we can skip. The answer is no. While we might be able to skip the use of some of the upgrades, the game is hard-coded that we cannot go to the end game until we have defeated all 6 of the bosses. So now we've got to do this mob fight right here. This one's really tricky, so I'm just going to kind of focus. Okay. I'm going to try to repair this fight a little bit. We need a doctor. It honestly turned... Oh, get wrecked. Please die. Thank you. There's going to be a lot of moments here because of these enemies having so much health where I'm just asking them to get out of my way. But this is the Shatter Dimension. This is what happens when you give Mysterio Minecraft. So this is broken up into like a bunch of mod fights and a bunch of combat segments. Ooh, this is a little bit different than what I'm used to. Thank you. So I kind of just go into autopilot mode, so I'm sorry if I'm quiet. It is very difficult to manage. This is probably the most important segment in the run where we need to manage our momentum here, because you can see my damage output just goes up so much higher if I have momentum. I
can for sure see why you would get quiet. I mean, the combat, you know, it feels like it would be hard to go on a perfect script, and then you're down to improving and trying to figure out how to repair little mistakes here and there.
Yeah, because on top of that, Oh wow, he just like instantly disappeared. Usually he fades out, but he just kind of vanished out of thin air. That was kind of cool. A little bit more about that later. A small little strat here where I just jump up to this wall to avoid having to go the full way around the room. Then as soon as I break this last barrier, I'm going to jump and then ground pound in order to just cancel out of that as fast as possible. And then I'll do another roll to cancel out of the crawl, straight into a ground pound. Ooh, I almost just got sniped. Please. So I think you're supposed to have amazing Spider-Man's ability to glide or just do a really convoluted web swing there. But you can just wall jump. That's really strange.
So you never actually took advantage of the ability you were mentioning where you can share powers between them?
Yeah, because that one's not really required to complete the game, so we just avoid it. And 100% you have to collect it, because, well, it's a 100% speedrun.
Right.
So, yeah. But it really doesn't... the reason why... it's actually much more important for 100%, because there is a combat upgrade called Aerial Assault, that you unlock in 100% that allows you to do these like charge bashes mid-air, and those are really like the best way to get momentum from a standstill. So you'll see if you there's a really great task on YouTube of the 100% category that is a really good reference for the use of that specifically. And I'll mention this again, but the reason why oh wow, that was really good. Okay, before I say that, this is just another strat I found is really cool. I'm gonna stroke my ego about it. Boom, boom. Whee! It always has to be accompanied by those sound effects, by the way, or else it doesn't work properly.
That makes sense.
Very specific wall run I do right there, again, to skip having to get the glide conduit. There's a backup strat for it, but, yeah, that was pretty good. The Shadow Dimension has been rather clean, actually, which is quite surprising because this is the segment where everything can go wrong. The amount of runs that have been choked here are more than I'd like to admit. There we go. And sometimes, too, it's also important where you place your dive kicks, because your dive kicks can actually contribute to your momentum meter as well. So you might see that I dive kick in a kind of random place, but it's actually a very significant thing. Because that little extra bit of momentum can really impact your attack speed and can really affect your positionings and stuff. Okay, you dead? Please die. Maybe if I breakdance on you hard enough, you'll die. Thank you. Ow. Yeah, these electrical shield enemies are inarguably the worst in the game. Also, getting hit by a missile launcher isn't very pleasant either. Oh, I almost had him. Okay. Losing time here to momentum loss, that's okay. This is the last fight. Oh, he did a short punch? Really, dude? Whatever reason, whenever I do marathon runs of this game, the enemies just like to be super disrespectful. It's like, come on, I'm trying to put on a good show here, and y'all just want to punch me in the face. You all want to do your job of being grunts. Alright, there we go. So now we've got Mysterio. This is my favorite fight in the entire run. It's like a version of the electric fight, but on steroids. The premise is, I just want to make sure he doesn't do a punch on the ground because he has super armor during that. But other than that, I'm going to try to carry on these ridiculous combos on him. It's a super fun fight. So that's the punch we don't want to see. That we want to see. The can of peas. Okay, he did that. That's fine. Really? That whiffed. Interesting. Okay, so he did Hadoukens. That's really good when he Hadoukens, because that allows you to get a full ground combo going. I missed the ground pound. My extensions are a little rough. Okay, that's another good one. Except when he has super armor. That sucks. Oh, I got Spirit Bomb too. No Hadouken for you. Almost dead. There we go. Okay, that was a little scuffed, but that was pretty good. I got to show off some cool strats there. So we're almost on the end of the run already. This run goes by really fast. Really fun run. I'm so glad I got to show it off. But of course, because it's a Metroidvania, we've got a Metroid escape sequence. But we're gonna do something a little bit different that looks a lot cooler. 1, 2. So this first part is as normal. We're supposed to do these web swings. And then once we get up to here, I'm gonna start up a spider dash, and then try to clear it for the rest of the room. So this is rather tricky. So I'm just gonna try to focus here for this first little bit, and then I should be in the clear. Doing neutral jumps off the ceiling allows me to continue my spider dash if I do it properly. But now we're running on the ceiling, where you're normally supposed to web swing. So we're kind of just completely breaking the purpose of this thing, and just kind of taking this dramatic moment and just kind of not really caring. All right, so we've got one more zip, and then we're basically done. Time is coming up very soon when I hit the portal. So get ready on time. And time. All right, that round was actually really good. I'm curious, what was my time?
28-28.
Oh, that's really good. Dang. World record was 27:03 not too long ago. It's currently at 26:19 right now, but that run was out of this world good. Out of this dimension good, maybe. I'm so sorry. But yeah, a couple of shout outs. First of all, Shasta, thank you for introducing me to this game. I wouldn't be running it without you, homie. And also, shout outs, he's probably disappeared into the corners of the internet, but a random game tasker for creating the task, which inspired both me and Shasta to run this game. Again, shout out Speedrun Rochester, and thank you to everyone on the Hotfix and general GDQ staff. You all rock. Thank you so much. For making this super awesome. I guess before I go, if you're interested in asking any more questions about the games I've shown you, have any more questions about my Type 1 time stuff, or just want to say hello, feel free to message me on Twitter, or I'll happy to talk more when I'm streaming on Twitch or something like that. So feel free. Thank you so much for having me, guys. And that's about all I've got. Hope you enjoyed the run.
Yeah, that's Jaxler1 on Twitch as well. So,
Yep.
Really appreciate everyone coming out for this. This was a great show. Thank you so much, Jaxler, for all of this. I think we're probably going to wrap it up right here and send this off to a host. Before we go, I do want to just one more time say thank you to everyone for tuning in. Your viewership is appreciated, and your subscriptions help to make these shows possible. They are only possible. They're funded in part thanks to your bits and subscriptions. And so if you want to see more broadcasts like this, consider subscribing.
Thank you so much, everybody.